Whoa. You got an echo thing going on because Eric, you're still not muted. Got it. Anyways, hey everyone, welcome back to the Nintendo Prime Podcast, Season 2, Episode 22. And
when I'm away for a week.
Dude, you're muted as well,
Oh,
you're just not ready.
Apparently, this is what happens when I'm gone for a week.
Yeah, we just forget you exist. None of the equipment's set up correctly.
Right.
Andres restarts hiding himself because he's doing embarrassing things over there. This is just how it goes. Ooh, we do have some. You're unmuted again.
We're off to a great start right now.
You know what?
This is amazing.
I'll mute myself on my side.
Yeah. Why don't you just eliminate your microphone like it doesn't exist?
Yeah.
It's a weird setup because his audio is coming through over here, but then anyways. How you
we don't
guys
need
doing?
to hear him. He's not a real gamer, anyways.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
nobody needs to hear from me anyway. So we're
no one needs to hear from him. Like, how much years can you play last week? 2 minutes?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, see, you're not a real gamer. Anyways, how you guys doing? We got a packed show today, and we have a new face around here. So let's start by introducing our new face. We have Mr. Sayoran. How's it going?
It's going great. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. So I want to tell everyone what you do around on YouTube and all that.
Hello. I'm a Nintendo-centric channel, but I cover the big three. I like talking about games, industry, news, events, all that fun stuff. Come check out Sayoran Gaming.
Yep, we got it linked right down in the description, and we'll probably toss it in the chat a few times throughout the show today. Obviously, you guys know who I am. I'm Nintendo Prime. I don't need an introduction to my own channel. I don't think. Maybe you don't know who I am, but too bad. So let's go to the top middle here. The one who kept messing up the beginning of the stream without meaning to.
Without doing anything. I did nothing.
Yeah, I did.
Damn it, Eric.
Eric Moore. He said, I don't know what we're yelling about. So
I don't know what we're yelling about. Well, I do apparently because we're yelling about me, but
yeah, it's life. Then we got Mr. Darren up there at the top right, who's adventuring in the depths, apparently. How's it going, Darren?
What's up, everybody? You know I love it. I love it down there. Spending whole days down there and just uncovering stuff.
Yeah.
One of the best parts of the game.
Nice.
Literally,
nice.
yeah.
Then below Darren, we got Nick Barrett from the Joystick Drift podcast back again, reminding us the Wii U is back. Why is the Wii U back?
The Sony thing. That's a screen for your console, which is just the Wii U. Yeah.
I saw a picture for it and I was like, oh, a new Sony handheld. And then I looked up an article and I was like, oh, it's not. I don't care anymore.
And you can't even take it out of your house.
You can already do remote play on PlayStation on your phone or tablet. So here's just a separate device that has none of the functions of your phone or tablet, just for remote play. We just cut a PlayStation. Look,
I literally have a backbone, and I do that all the time.
right? Like, why do I need what's probably going to be a $200 device when I can just buy something for what I already have? Like it's. Anyways, you know what? That's just the way they do things around here. Then we have Mr. Andres Restart going up in here. How's it going?
I'm going on. I'm happening. I'm here. What's
up,
I
feel like I haven't chatted much with you. You've had a bit of a rough week over there at the channel, so
it's all right.
It's all right. Yeah, for those who don't know, he went through a little demonetization thing. He talked about it a bit publicly. It doesn't seem like he really did anything wrong. It was more like a form situation.
I'm a criminal.
Yeah, apparently it's a
man.
It was
basically, they wanted documentation, and I didn't really. Apparently, they sent me an email a while ago asking for extra documentation on like my, like personal tax, living stuff.
Yeah.
And I never saw the email because I get thousands of emails, and it was one email a long time ago, and then all monetization was gone. I was like, okay, something's wrong. So, yeah.
It was a form situation, as I said. It's all resolved now. And the sad thing is, while he was dealing with the resolve, he had like one of his best videos in like the last month just blow up and not be able to monetize. So I'm sure that wasn't nice feeling. But hey, you know what is good feeling about that? It did prove that monetization is irrelevant for video momentum. So.
Sure, yeah, that is true, right? That is
you figure that would matter, that YouTube would care about money, but I guess
for those who believe in the conspiracy theories that being monetized helps, it at least for the short term, it didn't make a difference.
No, you also were doing better. Like, oh, geez, I should stay on monetized. No, don't pay me. All right. So we got a lot to talk about today. Surprisingly, when these topics just literally came together about 40 minutes ago, because it's been a really busy around here. That being said, we have to get to our first segment of this. What have we been playing lately? So I guess let's start with our new person. Say, Ram, what have you been playing lately?
Of course, I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom. I've actually been kind of taking my time, having a little fun time, exploring, doing all the fun stuff. I'm saving the depths actually for post game. I don't know why. I just for some reason I'm like, I feel like there's such a post game vibe to it. So I'm gonna do that in post game. And I played the Street Fighter 6 beta this past weekend. I got destroyed. These kids are not playing.
They ain't messing around.
Not at all.
Awesome,
that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Nick Barrett, what have you been playing? I haven't talked to you in a bit.
I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom. I'm about 75 hours in, and I've actually beat the main story.
Oh no!
So I won't say anything.
We don't have a Zelda topic today, so we're good.
Other than it was amazing and everything I hoped for. So now I'm going back through. Like, I hadn't fully explored the depths. I haven't fully explored the sky. Like, I want to get all the batteries maxed out and like my inventory maxed out. So I'm still doing a ton of stuff. It's just I was really starting to get worried about the story spoilers. So I was like, well, I feel prepared enough. Spoiler alert, I was not, but I somehow did it. And now I'm clear of spoilers. So
yeah, I'm just waiting for someone to find a glitch that will let me glue as many things together as possible. So I realized since we can only glue like 20 things, that I cannot make my flying castle, and that really upsets me. My dream is ruined. So you can with some clever tricks, but it's not what I want. I have a vision. I have a vision, and my vision is ruined. So I have to rethink the vision using the physics engine, which isn't really the same because what I've noticed is, I don't know if you guys have figured this out yet, things weigh more if they're not glued, and I don't know why. So when you're doing flying physics, if you just set a log on top of a platform and then attach a fan to the platform,
let you move
it weighs more. Yeah, it weighs more than it does if you just glue it. So it's a weird thing. So my flying castle, it has to be a pretty mini castle. And you know what? I'm not happy about that. So somebody out there, you guys are finding all the duplication glitches in the world. Find an ultra hand glitch so I can unlimited glue. I don't care if my Switch chugs to 2 FPS. I want that flying castle. I will approach the final battle in my own castle. Come on.
So you want a castle to fly into another castle?
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know where the
final land my castle on the castle. I don't even know.
Yeah. You actually can go to the castle pretty early. I went there. Nothing crazy happened. I just found some good stuff.
Yeah, there's apparently a lot of good. I haven't gone yet, but there's a lot.
There's a lot. Just like in Breath of the Wild, there's a lot of good weapons there.
Nice.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and there is a pretty crazy thing in there somewhere if you look hard enough.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
maybe I need to go back. I didn't.
No, I plan on
going
back soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm saving it.
So what's the point where we stop like avoiding spoilers and we just say what happens? Like, when is that point?
I don't know.
None of us know.
I'm afraid to make content. Like I wanted to make some tip guides or something, like, and I'm just like, nope. Because every time I even put up a thumbnail with Tears of the Kingdom, someone's like, spoiler. I'm like, what do you mean spoiler?
No, facts.
He's holding a rock.
All right. So just so you know, every time I record Tears of the Kingdom footage, I go and turn off all the powers. Powers for what? Not going to say, just in case you don't want to know. Like, literally, I just turned off one when we were, I was like, oh, technically there's something visible on screen that someone might not want to see, even though it was in all the reviews. But whatever. Like, I want to make at least some tips videos too. Like, there are some bosses. I'm not even talking about dungeon bosses. I'm just talking about some overworld bosses that Nintendo didn't show off in trailers. I was like, hey, I would like to make a how-to video on this because I know there are some people that just see it and run, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying there's actually a couple different things. I can't even make a video on it because it's technically a spoiler. So then the people who want to know how to do it, where do they look? I mean, not YouTube.
And I will say this. I have admittedly tried looking on YouTube for a few guides for very, very, very specific things, and they don't exist. And that's very strange. that we are like this far out and guides for various, like if I'm looking up a guide for something and I'm not talking like a shrine guide. At this point, there's guides for every shrine, but like, why? This is stuff that you would normally be able to find. And I think some people are just either haven't experienced it somehow or are afraid to make videos because there's so much backlash every time you do.
Make it.
Maybe I could do silhouettes. Like,
Or
maybe.
And
we've
then
just
blur
reached
the
the
entire
point-
solution, even though people are specifically looking for that solution.
Yes.
So it's,
Or we've
Yeah,
just
it's
reached
scary.
a point where you can just do it.
but then,
I feel like once you're a month out, it's kind of like
if you're using Ultra Hand and you just make funny builds, nobody complains about those.
You're right.
Yeah,
No spoilers
nobody
there.
complains about
Yeah.
that. So
No,
shout out
even
to
though you can apparently do
r/Hyrule
crazy things they
Engineering.
never showed off. That's cool. No
Yeah,
spoilers. I
dude,
guess.
if you go to the Hyrule Engineering subreddit, there's
Oh.
crazy stuff in there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. All right. So who's next for what have we been playing lately? How about Andres Restart? What have you been playing lately? I mean, I'm assuming one thing, but I don't know. Maybe you got multiple games going. Yeah, okay. You're playing around. Hey, spoilers!
It's not a
Spoilers!
spoiler. There's no way this is a
oh
spoiler.
my
Spoilers!
gosh,
Playing Tears
I
of the
built that bike
Kingdom.
today.
I didn't know I could glue.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, right.
He's playing
Yeah,
Tears of the Kingdom, and he
total-
played a little bit of Future Redeemed.
I didn't know ring
Nah.
lights reflected off
Yes.
the TVs. Oh wait.
Yeah, I'm actually
Spoilers.
I ordered better lights because I think my eyesight's starting to degrade from too much light on my face.
Do you now understand why I kick off my live streams wearing shades? I have
Yeah.
like it's literally just a light reduction thing because I'm in front of them.
Yeah, I lowered the brightness on all of them, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's still. Yeah.
I was watching the basketball game the other day, and like I was sitting all the way back, and like I can read everything, but like the numbers are starting to blur a little bit. I'm like, I used to have perfect vision. This is not okay.
Not anymore.
Well, we'll
Start
see
to
if I
tweak a
can.
smidge.
I don't know if I can fix it, or maybe it's
Could be
just
we're just
fatigue.
getting older.
Nah, forever youth.
Forever.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom. That's pretty much the only thing I've been playing. I was actually surprised to see that I was over 90 hours. Maybe I'm already over 100 because I stayed up late last night to finish the third dungeon, and
There you
I was
go.
actually shocked at how many times I died. I don't think I've ever died that many times against the boss before.
What's your third?
I don't know. That might be a spoiler.
I don't know.
Hey.
Just go top
It's
left,
it-
top right, bottom of
Yeah,
It-
right,
it-
yeah.
the one where there's a lot of sand.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I
That's
haven't
what I'm
done
doing
that one
next.
yet. I'm
Yeah,
looking
that's my
forward to
last
that
one.
one.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think it might have been it's so interesting because I mean I think there's more than what am I allowed to say? Anyway, okay, I think there's more. I think
Look, I'm
from
at
what
Death
I've
Mountain. Everyone knows where Death Mountain is. That's where I'm at the moment, or sort of.
okay, yeah, that was my in the northeastern part of the map. There is a dungeon. If that's a spoiler, I apologize. And that was my second one. And now I'm in the
Okay.
southern part
Yeah,
of the
that's my
map that
third
I'm
one.
doing. The thing is, I think there might be more than one dungeon to the south, but the very south, I just did it. I stayed up all night doing that dungeon. And I think that might have been my favorite dungeon. I'm not sure because like they're all kind of like unique and they have like their own like there's a lead up too. Like it's not just the dungeon itself; it's like the story leading up to it. And they're all kind of unique and cool in their own way. And then there's the dungeon themselves, and then the boss fights. This game, Twilight Princess had maybe the best boss designs in the Zelda history. Tears of the Kingdom has that same energy, except it's hard. And that was the one problem with Twilight Princess. That the bosses looked cool, but they were a cakewalk. These bosses aren't always a cakewalk. And that kind of it makes it just that much better.
That's interesting because the two dungeons I have down, I didn't really find either boss to be that hard. One was really fun, but not really difficult. The other one was kind of a joke.
I'll tell you the first two dungeons I didn't die. Third dungeon I died. And maybe it's just because I'm not getting enough hearts or something, but like I was getting one-shotted left and right. Like there were attacks coming.
Well, I've heard that dungeon you're talking about is like the hardest one too.
And
so.
Nice.
And I also speculate, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that the difficulty kind of scales depending on your progress too. I know
I've
Breath of
noticed
the
that with
Wild
some
did
of the
that.
enemies. The enemies seem to be higher, like different, like higher colored the more
Like
hearts I add.
I have 10 hearts right now, which isn't a lot, but like I'm like walking up and an enemy just smacks and I'm dead. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think they've actually. I haven't confirmed yet, but I'm pretty sure they've added some sort of enemy AI scaling with your hearts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically, you going, oh, I'm not going to add any hearts. You're sort of keeping the game easy mode for yourself. They kind of went opposite direction, which is all right.
So
I got
far,
like a full stamina wheel plus some because I always do max out stamina then go hearts. So I have like 6, 7 hearts, but
yeah, I've got 8
have a
hearts.
lot of stamina.
I don't have that many hearts, but I also have like I don't know 16 orbs to turn in. So I just haven't stopped.
Yeah, I'm usually not in a rush to like I'll get like maybe 16, 20 orbs, and then all right, it's time to bolster up my defenses.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, but I think I've put in almost 100 hours apparently, but I think some of that's just kind of me like recording a video and leaving the game on in the background, so it's probably a little bit misleading. But
you mean like right now, podcast games?
Oh yeah, like literally, you're right. Yeah, yeah. So that definitely probably increases my play time, but I've played a decent amount. I'm only 3 dungeons in. I don't know how long we're gonna. I could talk about Tears of the Kingdom all night.
But... I know we could. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
and mine was at 55 hours when it unlocked, and then I've only played like an hour since because of. Well, when I said I was busy, I've been so busy, and I'm behind on things, and now it's the last week of school for the kids, so now they're gonna be home all the time. Things are just about to get even more nuts. So, but hey, life of a full-time YouTuber who's a dad. That's
dad life. Let's go.
What we do.
Yeah. Well, I have a cat.
And you know what? The funny thing is, I'm gonna go check Yulia's Switch tonight just to see how much she's played. I guarantee she might have 100 hours already in the game, and I'm gonna be like, you just. Apparently, I need to quit my job and just watch kids. You can go.
Let me ask you a question. Like for a lot of you guys, right? Like a lot of us create content. Has like the need to create content like impacted your experience with Tears of the Kingdom? Because I felt a little, I feel compelled to rush through the story, just to like make videos on it. Because I make a lot of Zelda theory, right?
I rushed through the story just because people kept trying to spoil it for me in my live streams all the time. So it had nothing to do with content per se, more so just people won't shut up. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just do all the Dragon Tears right now instead of waiting.
And the thing is, that's not even the whole story.
There's
still more
it's
story.
not. There's a whole lot I don't know yet. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like
I finished the Tears of the Dragon quest last night.
Same.
So
me too.
Wow.
I don't think it's impacted my enjoyment of the game because I didn't want to approach it as a review because I was like, if I make a review, like there's like a million other reviews of everyone else doing it. So I just approached it from a different angle so that I could actually enjoy the game. I'm thinking about doing a like spoiler-filled story discussion this weekend, but also spoilers, you know how that is. So
I mean, look, if you warn and there's nothing in the title or thumbnail that's really bad, I think it'll be all right. It's one of those you're only gonna get spoiled if you want it to be. So
yeah,
what are you complaining about?
Like if you haven't gotten past that point, you're not gonna click on a video that says spoiler discussion.
No, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. People are just click to complain.
I completely avoided listening to any of the soundtrack on YouTube because I didn't want YouTube to keep recommending me stuff, but then be like, here's the final boss music. And I'm like, oh, thanks. The title alone is a spoiler.
But you heard my main theme on my stream. It doesn't affect your suggestions.
That's true.
Anyways. All right. Darren, what have you been playing? I don't even need to ask. Look,
playing Tears of the
Kingdom. Dare play Modern Warfare?
I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom like everyone else. I forgot to check the clock. I forgot that unlocked, but I know I have over 100 hours.
I'm sure you do, Darren.
I definitely do.
Might be
I'm on to my second row of hearts. I have stamina maxed out. I have shrines about 3/4 of the way done. I wanted to have them all done by tonight, but I do not yet. I want to get them all done before I go to the next dungeon and continue the story. I did play a little bit of Modern Warfare 2 tonight and last night.
And that's why you didn't finish the shrines, see?
That's why I didn't finish the shrines, and I've also been enjoying the Lakers' downfall.
Evil.
So,
I think they did the best they could.
LeBron
That's all
did
they
the
could
best
do.
he could. Some of those guys did the best they could, but the Nuggets, they're a killing machine
Until they play the Heat.
until they play the Heat.
He's got to finish the job first.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be a
I
close
think
series.
the Heat are still going to win the series, but I'm just saying
It would literally be the first time an NBA history team has lost.
The Heat first for everything, but
there's always the first for everything.
But what are the odds? It's the first time. They're pretty low.
But
like I remember when the Bucks were down 2-0 in the finals, and they're like, "Oh, look at the stats! That series over." And then, well, they won 4 in a row.
Yeah, but 2-0 is different from 3-0.
I know.
It's only one game different. And weren't they the away team? They didn't lose their first 2 home games. It's a very different situation.
Yeah, it's a different situation. But in the finals, you never want to go down 2-0. It's not good.
You don't want to go down. No, never. Yeah, it's not a good look. But it's not.
No one thought that Giannis was going to bounce back the way that he did after that knee thing. So we got kind of lucky. And it was the Suns. And well, I don't know. Let's just say Chris Paul seems to always come up small when it matters most. Long history of that, Chris Paul. Sorry, man. Point God. Sorry, talk NBA all day. Let's get into Eric, I guess. What have you been playing lately?
I was gonna say, don't worry, I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom a little bit here.
It'll be like we just discussed earlier how you barely touched it in the last week.
I mean, no, I've played. I'm about 5 towers in. I think
he's counting by tower.
Hey. Have you gone off the Sky Island?
Yes, I have.
No. Have you gone onto the Sky Island?
No, I've not gone back to the Sky Island. Okay. No, I've gotten off of it. I'm about 5 towers deep. Just picking up
spoilers. There's towers.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, picking up shrines here and there, and then just slowly progressing through the game, hitting up the side quests as I come across them, and then coming to the finally completed with the ones that I have. So I'm on to the region story quest.
Regional phenomena.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm heading to that story quest, I think, next.
Been to the depths yet?
Yeah. Just for a little bit.
Oh, that's right.
Just to take a picture and then come back up.
To do that one quest.
I explored just a tiny bit, but
all right. So, well, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom, and that's all I've done. All I've touched. I actually technically played Farming Simulator 23. That was for a video that I knew would not perform well. Actually, I'm kind of surprised. I thought we were done at 600 views. I woke up the next day and we cracked 1,000 on that video. So thank you guys for watching that video. That's awesome. As I tell all of these sponsors that come at me, it's better to buy an ad than to buy a dedicated video. I keep telling them this, and they just go, how much for dedicated? Well, I mean, you're taking up a video slot. I'm not going to make any money because the video is not going to get any views. It's going to be a lot, and it ain't going to be worth it. And then they always go, yes, here's the paycheck.
And then they come back and go, it wasn't.
No, they don't say anything.
Right.
They just go, cool, thank you. And I'm like, I hope it was worth it. That's all. I don't think it probably was for you. By the way, nothing against Farming Simulator 23. It's exactly what it says it is. Mm-hmm. It's very good at what it's doing. If you like farm life, you might like this. It's got animal husbandry and it's got all the plants and all the stuff. But again,
I didn't know what husbandry meant until I played Farming Simulator.
Oh, yeah, I grew up in the heart of the farmland over here. So.
Let me Google that. Hold on.
I tried to get into Farming Simulator. I have a friend that plays it. He does a lot of logging instead of farming.
Oh, sure. Yep, that's something you can do in the game, yeah.
And, it was enticing, but after I played probably around like 5 hours of it, and I was like, yeah, there's other stuff that I'd rather play. But I can't say it's a bad game.
It's exactly what it says it is. Like, it's farm life. Do you enjoy farm life? Then you might enjoy the game.
There's an audience for it. I'm more of an audience than I thought.
Yeah, it's actually like there's been multiple of them, and like if you look at the mobile version, it's got a ton of downloads, and it's like, dude, like, and it's legitimately not a bad game, even on Switch. Like it's,
I actually think mobile makes sense between Switch and phone because, like, let's say you're at work and you got some downtime or on the bus, like it's kind of like, it is kind of like the ideal game to kind of, all right, just kill some time, relax.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad game, but I've been so there's that, and Yeah, there's Tears of the Kingdom. That's basically it. I picked up. No, I played one game of Madden this week. I won it, so that's cool. Maybe Tears of the Kingdom has me relaxed now because this was a money.
But I
league.
rage deleted Madden like 2 months ago.
I don't blame you. That game is such a mess.
That game
is a mess.
Pisses me off.
It's a mess.
I want to like it, and I do, but every time I play it, it makes me so mad. Like I just want a good NFL game, and it's not.
Don't you love when a defender can jump and get 15 feet in the air to intercept the football? Like that makes any sense. Oh, I dropped a rainbow dime. Let the guy let the user defender cut off 15 yards early and jump up.
It's so stupid. And I play against my cousin a lot, and all he does is do like just the cheesiest plays, and it just frustrates me so bad. And then you go online and you get the ball, get a touchdown. Miraculously get it back, get another touchdown, and the other guy's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna quit instead of playing."
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah,
like, okay, yeah. Well,
that's why I do leagues. We do leagues where people stick around because you get punished if you don't stick around. Yeah.
That's where it's at.
Anyways, so yeah, mostly Tears of the Kingdom, having a great time. I have no idea, guys, when I'm gonna finish this game. I'm not reviewing it. At least I don't think I am. Maybe there's no value in a review like a year from now. I don't know. But if it is, then it's got to be an Arlo style review, which is like 4 videos, 1 hour plus long. Not sure I have that in me, but maybe I do. Maybe I'll have that much to say, that much to deep dive into, because there is quite a bit you could deep dive into. Because at that point, obviously, like when Arlo does his reviews, like a year or two later, he's unworried about spoilers. He's deep diving into every little detail. So, I honestly think I'm going to end up playing Tears of the Kingdom for like the next year at this point. I don't think I'm ever going to get enough time to fundamentally sit down and finish the game. So I'm just going to keep playing it here and there, a little bit here and there. I'll probably end up somewhere around 700 hours in the game before I actually fight the final boss. And that's still going to take me forever to get there. And then that's assuming that I don't take breaks for things like Pikmin 4 coming out. Maybe Metroid Prime 4 drops sometime in there while I'm also trying to finish this. And I know those are shorter games, so then I'll be like, oh, let me go do those.
You don't know how long Prime 4 is.
Prime 4 ain't no 700 hours. Get out of here.
Neither is Tears of the Kingdom.
Hefty 12.
Tears of the Kingdom can be 700 hours. It got so much content packed into it.
I gotta say, I just don't know how many hours I'm going to spend in this game. It might be upwards of 700 and I'm going to regret saying this, but I'm going to 100% this game. It's going to be 700 hours, dude. I'm going to do the Korok seeds. I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do the Korok seeds enough to max out my inventory, and then I'm going to stop.
And I've seen the reward for the Korok seeds.
Oh, you have seen it?
And I'm sorry if this is a spoiler, but it still sucks. So,
shocker.
Sorry if you were going to get all the Korok seeds because you were hoping for a good reward. But it's not going to be a good reward. But I'm still going to do it because I hate myself.
There's no way it can be a good award because like
I'm gonna look it up right now.
It's so ridiculous to collect that many Korok seeds. They can't expect most people to do that. So if there is like a cool reward behind the Korok seeds, it's people are gonna be like, well, I can never get that because
unlimited ultra hand. Come on, I will do it.
That'd be worth it.
I would do it if you give me unlimited ultra hand.
I mean, it would be, but also that would be broken.
Well, but at that point, if you're at the point that you're collecting every Korok, you've done everything already. Let's just be honest. Like, at that point, you're looking to break the game just to have fun.
What if it damages the Switch?
It's not going to
bricks the Switch.
The game's just going to run at like 5 FPS. Just let it be.
You collect all the Korok seeds to break your Switch.
If you think about it, Breath of the Wild, like people who only make content on Breath of the Wild have been making content on that game for 6 years, and then they got a sequel. So it's like the sky's the limit, man.
Pun intended.
Well, here we go. Yeah. Well, not the moon, though. Sorry, bud.
That's debatable.
That's debatable. Haven't finished yet. There's hope. There's hope.
I mean, I was like sports, and it basically was a moon. So
I will say,
here we go.
I am very interested to see what DLC looks like for this
me too.
game. Because like, where do you go from here?
Well, I don't know.
You
have
the underground. So. You have the sky. Like
the water.
What could you add to DLC?
More sky
water,
islands.
the moon.
Yeah,
more
there could be
sky islands.
I would love more sky islands. I do feel like the sky, especially compared to the underground, is kind of bare.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I feel like I've already
block
done
out the sun. That's my theory.
I would pay $20 for my weapons not to break.
Oh, here we go.
That's the fun.
That's what Fuse is for.
Fun part.
I do enjoy the Fuse mechanic. I do like.
So
it,
we weren't supposed to
would
talk
pay-
Zelda today.
yeah. Can't say that. Spoiler. I'm not going to say that.
All right, let's get into some of the quick news that happened over the last week. There was new Sparks of Hope DLC announced, which is awesome. We knew it was coming, didn't know when, so still technically don't know when. They didn't really show it, but maybe it'll be in Nintendo's next event, which we might talk about eventually here. It turns out that if you really enjoy Bayonetta Origins, that don't just think Platinum Games, think Nintendo, because it was Nintendo's idea. As they put out in an interview, Nintendo suggested to Platinum that they should do a spin-off for Bayonetta, and they're like, oh, really? Because they weren't even thinking about that. Now they're like, cool, and that's how Origins happened. So Nintendo, look at them pushing Platinum to make a spin-off. It's pretty cool. Tears of the Kingdom sales-wise, here's your weekly Tears of the Kingdom news. Remains number one in the UK for the second week in a row, despite a 73% drop-off. Remember, this is only physical sales, and you might hear 73% drop-off and think it's bad. Its debut is massive. Mm-hmm. Every game that debuts this massive in the UK drops off like this. So to still maintain number one just lets you know how many sales are still happening for that game in the UK. Don't have Japanese numbers. That always happens the day after the podcast. Let's see. Sony did a really funny thing, talking in a business meeting that's posted publicly about brand momentum. And apparently, according to them, Nintendo's brand momentum is basically a flat, straight line since 2018. And this is based on internal data, so they claim. So, you know, when they peaked in 2020 selling 28 million Switches, the most ever for any console in the history of gaming, that didn't give them a bump in their brand momentum. When they released Lego sets, they became the fastest selling new Lego sets in 30 years. 30 years! That didn't give them any brand momentum. When they announced the Mario movie, no brand momentum. It's kind of interesting. But remember, when PS5 launched, it made that when the PlayStation 5 launch was through the roof for brand momentum. So
you couldn't get anything.
Sony
Horizon's 30 million in a year. No brand momentum.
Let's first ask this question. What do we define as brand momentum?
Well, their definition was basically public perceived brand recognition of anything produced by Sony Interactive Entertainment, which also includes TV and movies based on video games, because they opened a production studio for that. So that's what they do. Now, what they base it for the other companies, I'm sure it's whatever metrics they can to make them look bad. Because for Nintendo, the entire business is built around their video game IP. So,
I mean, to be fair though, we didn't know it was technically Nintendo because it was
B.
It was B, Company B.
If you actually, it says it in the documents if you read further. But yeah, they purposely didn't put. They just put the red line and the green line and called them Company B, Company C.
It had nothing to, no way of telling what company was what.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Sony's just mad they haven't put out a movie that made $1 billion at the box office, and that they haven't put out a game that sold 10 million copies in 3 days. They're just mad.
Didn't we all see Morbius?
The Morbius?
No,
yeah, we flooded the theaters for that one.
Oh yeah, we love the Morbius.
But no, look, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Sony's that's why it's not really a topic. It doesn't really matter. Sony just finding a new way to make themselves look so much more superior than their competition is it's a very Sony thing to do. And no one really knows why they put anyone else on the graph. Why couldn't the graph just be them?
I tuned into
Sony streaming handheld really ups their brand recognition. I'm sure.
Hey, dude, they're getting the Wii U with gamepad. Let them be.
I'm buying it.
I tuned into the showcase for like 2 minutes. I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't really care about it, but I just tuned in for 2 minutes because I saw it on my feed. I was like, all right, whatever. And I was in the live chat and I was like, oh, I should be like, oh, TOTK2. Like I wanted to just be like, is this Tears of the Kingdom 2? And then there was a game that looked like Tears of the Kingdom.
Powers of Ashaba, yeah. I'm actually excited. I'm actually excited for that one, but a lot of it is because it did remind me of Zelda. But I'm like, I'm cool. Yeah. So did Phoenix Rising, and I loved Phoenix Rising. So you know what? I might really like that.
That's a good game.
I live reacted to it. Dude, we got to see Plucky Squire again, which is also coming to Switch. So that's really exciting. And we got to see a new indie game called Neva, which is also coming to Switch. So sometimes it's worth watching these things if you want to see some multi-platform games coming to Nintendo.
But
What
about
showcase this today, but that has nothing to do with Nintendo.
What about
I think the funniest thing is that Xbox dropped a graphic like of all the games that are coming out that Sony also had to showcase. It was really funny.
It was great.
I think Sony just plays hardball. That's why we see things like
this
case.
The internet was crapping on their showcase because there was hardly any first party, and it was all third party multi-platform, and that's why Microsoft dropped the graphic. They're like, by the way, thanks for the showcase. Like,
honestly,
this
is coming to me too.
And I'm not blindly...
Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 16 and Spider-Man.
Awesome. I'm not blindly just hating on Sony because I like Nintendo. Like, I play a lot of other games. Obviously, I play Modern Warfare 2 every week. I had a PS4, last gen. That was my console between PS4 and Xbox. I had a PS4. I switched to Xbox for a number of reasons, one of them being Game Pass. But Sony in recent years has just... they've really lost my respect a lot. I mean, stuff like this with talking shit about Nintendo and releasing this
technically
weird
they
streaming
just
device.
put a graph out that makes Nintendo look like they've made no momentum during the Switch.
Yeah, why are they manipulating?
Third best-selling platform in video game history. No,
and then the whole blocking Xbox acquisition of Activision when Activision said, "Look, we'll promise you that we'll put games on your consoles for the next 10 years and other consoles and whatnot." And I'm not a fan anymore. I had a PS5, I had a PS5 and an Xbox Series X, and
sure,
I just played my Series X. I sold my PS5.
I don't care about corporate BS. They can do what they want. Just give me games. That's why I have all the platforms. Just give me games. Just fight behind the scenes, you multi-billion-dollar companies or money. Just give me games.
Yeah.
Speaking of games, though, we'll get to our first topic because we had a brand new game announced that's coming to Switch, also to other platforms. No problem with that. Mortal Kombat 1, the whole remaster, remake, whatever they're calling this thing, and really cool. It's coming to Switch. Obviously, we got Mortal Kombat 11, which ran very well on Switch. They did a really good job with that port. It's one of the best third-party ports we've had from AAA space. But it's also $70 on Switch, which is the same price they're charging on the other platforms, to be fair. It's not like Switch is being singled out or being charged more than everyone else. But it became a bit of a talking point because, one, it's the second $70 game on Switch. Tears of the Kingdom obviously being the first. And people thinking, well, one, it's a worse version, so why is it $70? Technically, you haven't seen gameplay.
So that's actually... just because the graphics are worse doesn't mean it's worse. If you can take it on the go, it's basically 2 in 1.
I look at it like this: did you play Mortal Kombat 11 on Switch? Because it sounds like you didn't, because it was a very good experience on Switch. I don't know how the hell they pulled it off, but they did. It was really good. So I have no doubt that if they did that, they're going to do a good job with this for starters. So I can trust that this will be a good version of the game, not some like mobile bastardized 10 FPS version. On top of that, it is $70 on Switch. And it kind of gets to the point that while it's only 2 games, and we can point out all these other games coming, Pikmin 4, it's not $70. Are we reaching the point where this is just kind of what the prices are going to be on Switch or future Nintendo platforms fairly quickly, since a third-party company is now doing it?
Yeah, we talked about this last week on the pod. I think it's definitely the way it's going. I was just thinking to myself, do I really want to pay $70 for a fighting game? But then I remembered I paid $60 for Smash and bought all the DLC, which was over $70. So it's the way it's going, and it really doesn't matter if we like it. It's happening, and I think Nintendo is gonna keep charging $70 for their games, and people are gonna keep buying them. Even if I complain, you complain, we're still gonna buy them. It's going to happen. Nintendo knows that, and they're going to make more money off of it.
I mean, hey, they bumped Zelda up to 70, and it sold 10 million in 3 days. So as much as people complained about it going up in price, people still bought the game. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I don't think 70 is that big of a deal because if you look at, for me, 70 is a standard of quality and performance and all those other things too. Like Jedi Survivor came out on PS5 and I was like, save your 70 because it was some issues with that game. But God of War Ragnarok, another $75 or $70 game, excuse me. I know it's on PS5, but that was a great experience. So that's like my standard. I need it to be like that. And if we're looking at the Switch, I'm like, okay, Tears of the Kingdom, that's their $70 game, that's their premiere. Like, that's my standard now. Like, I don't expect every game to come out Tears of the Kingdom levels of polish and everything for $70, but MK1, I'm like, because Street Fighter 6 is 60 on all platforms. I think it's 60 everywhere. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a little jarring to see that be 70 on the Switch.
Yeah,
it's also like 33 gigabytes. I think
it's a big game. Yeah, big game.
So,
sheesh.
Yeah,
no,
good luck downloading.
Yeah, it's gonna require day one download to play for sure. It's interesting, looking at the $70 price point. I've had numerous debates with people on the whole $70 price point, because really it's only here in the US that this is even a thing, because nowhere else is increasing prices, because their prices have been increased for like a decade.
Yeah,
this isn't new to them. So like we're actually behind the price increase curve. We're still at 70 behind most of the price increase curve in the rest of the world. So it's interesting. I obviously am a big proponent of price variation. Like a Tears of the Kingdom game, absolutely worth 70. God of War Ragnarok, absolutely 70. But like people worry like on the next Mario sports game, what if they drop that at 70? Like it just doesn't really feel like that should be $70. I mean, it already doesn't feel like it should be 60 in most of the cases. So it's sort of like Nintendo talks about, we'll judge it by game to game. Yeah, maybe in the moment. Like, yeah, Pikmin 4, you're not going to charge 70, but don't tell me that your next Mario game, you're not charging 70. Don't tell me, after the success of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, that if you release a sequel to that you're not going to think about.
I feel like Switch 2 comes out and most of their first party games they release are going to be 70.
Yeah. I mean, Kit and Krista last week, former Nintendo employee, just straight up said, yeah, everything's going to be 70, like very quickly.
Yeah.
Because like you have to look at the rest of the industry sort of standardized that price already.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of talks about whether that's worth or not, because game sales have been down and this and that. And I would just say, well, game sales have been down because the quality of the games at $70 have gone down, not because people won't buy it. Look at how well God of War Ragnarok sold at launch. Like, yeah, because it was a quality game. Like you can't.
Yeah, but you put out a Jedi Survivor, and people aren't going to pay $70 for a game that's going to lag all the time.
Yeah,
and have PC. Stuttering and performance issues. Yeah, especially if you're on a PC.
Yeah, and then like you drop Forspoken at $70, and then that's just a big, massive disappointment. Redfall, big, massive disappointment. So it's like you gotta deliver the game, or the price is sort of irrelevant, whether it's 60 or 70. If the game isn't good, the sales ain't gonna be there. And I feel like what we're running into is everyone, and this hasn't become a problem for Nintendo yet because of the way they operate. Like Tears of the Kingdom is one of the few games they put that many years into. Of course, we say that now we're waiting forever for the next Mario game. So who the hell knows what's happening there? But these companies are really pushing like the bleeding edge of like visual fidelity and all this stuff. And sometimes I think there's so much focus on that, and it takes so long to make those games. We're seeing development times get longer and longer. So when a game drops like Forspoken or Redfall and it doesn't deliver and it is poor, it hurts the companies even more now when the sales are bad, because they spent even more money to make the game. And it's interesting to me because a lot of that to me just comes down to quality control. And I don't know if companies just aren't emphasizing that. I mean, we've seen that even with Nintendo, like Scarlet and Violet clearly didn't have amazing quality control, or at least if they did, weren't given the time to fix the problems for whatever reason. No, her Game Freak sets their own development schedules. But then apparently once it's set, and TPC won't let them get off it. So,
and then you have Tears of the Kingdom, which delays the game by a year to
an entire year just to polish. Yeah,
yeah, it's great.
But that's see, internal Nintendo teams though, I think will always get to do that. I don't know if that quote that they attribute to Miyamoto, and then people say Miyamoto never actually said the whole delay game is good, blah 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 thing. Okay, fine. But the bottom line is Nintendo has shown consistently with their internal teams that they will delay games for polish. It's happened so many times throughout Nintendo history.
Yeah.
And that just kind of comes from, I guess, an internal Nintendo standard of like, we don't want to release broken games. We might release games lacking content, but we don't want to release broken games. If you notice, Nintendo's games tend to be typically some of the least broken of the AAA releases. Least broken, some way. There's still glitches and stuff like that. Obviously, you can always find glitches in every game, though. Because glitches are like you're intentionally trying to do something that you wouldn't normally like run into. Like some of the duplication glitches, it's not something you normally would be doing in the course of normal gameplay. It's something that you're intentionally trying to figure out.
Tricking the random glitches.
Yeah, you're tricking the system, which wouldn't be caught in QA because they're just playing the game like you're supposed to.
I only encountered one random glitch in Tears of the Kingdom that like I wasn't trying to do, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. I was like, oh, okay. Like I got trapped somehow. I was trying to jump over something and a platform came up and hit me in a weird way, and I got caught in the wall. And I was like, okay, well that was a really weird scenario that through hundreds of hours of play testing might have never happened. It was just so random that I was in that spot. So I can forgive that.
Yeah.
It's the only glitch I've found. But you play some of these other $70 games that release, and you're just walking along or doing a quest or whatever, and this random weird bug happens that you weren't trying to do, and you're like, how did this make it past quality control? What is going on?
I walked up and knocked on the door to see if someone was home in Forspoken, and then I fall through the world.
It's like I was playing the GTA San Andreas remaster on Xbox, which everyone knows was horrible.
And I'm very disappointed.
Everyone knows that remaster was horrible, and I was doing a certain mission. I was robbing a bank, and I couldn't get past a certain spot in the mission. Every time I did, the game would crash, and it's like, how did that make it past quality control? It's not a $70 game, but it's still a remaster that supposedly they worked on and wanted to put out and marketed, and oh, this is great. No, Nintendo, that's one thing I really appreciate about Nintendo is the quality control and the testing and just the polishing they do, especially with big games like Tears of the Kingdom, where they have stuff like this insane physics engine and the ability to build things and just all these different weird abilities that work together. The fact that we can play this game and not experience these types of weird random bugs is incredible. When other studios put out these games and you're playing them and you're like, what? I paid $70 for this.
A good example would be like Bethesda. The engine they use has like the same bugs in every game. It's like you haven't figured that out by now. It's been like 15, 20 years. Kind of weird. But yeah, like it's just one of those things that $70 games are definitely on the literally we're at the cusp of that just being what it's going to be. And for us as consumers, all we have to tell these companies is let's not buy the games that are broken messes.
But the problem is we don't know until they're people.
That's why you don't buy games. You just don't buy day one. No one has to buy day one. I keep telling people this. Like when new hardware drops, you don't need it day one. Yeah. Wait until it already has the content that makes it worth a buy. Don't buy it on the promise of content. I know people that bought Wii U's on the promise of Zelda, and then, oh, look, it's on the next system. Yeah, but you still got it on your system. Yeah, but no, I want to get it on the next system. Oh, well, then maybe don't buy something until it's coming out. Like, it's one of those, I understand, by the way, why people buy games day one, because I know, because there is a joy factor to it. Like, you can say right out to your Kingdom, we're all experiencing it at the same time as a community, and that does feel special. But you know what? The review dropped the day before. You could have read the reviews and decided if you still wanted to get it day one. We knew Forspoken was bad before the game came out.
Yeah.
Like, we knew Redfall was going to have issues because they were announcing issues before the game even came out. Like, it's one of these things that we're pretty aware. It's very rare we go into a game day one and don't know if it's got problems. And then you have something like Scarlet and Violet that happens. It just gets away with it. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
Just shouldn't have gotten away with it, but they did.
I was so hyped for Scarlet and Violet. Like, I was like, I love Pokemon, and like my big brother played it growing up, and that's why I wear glasses now, because I was playing the Game Boy Advance with those dim little light thing.
Lights. Yeah.
I didn't have that, so I was squinting, and that's why I wear glasses now. I always make that joke, but I love Pokemon, and Scarlet and Violet was just such a disappointment. And then you get Tears of the Kingdom.
Arceus,
I'm like, I guess I'm a Zelda fan.
Arceus so how you go from Arceus to that with the same like. I don't know how they split their development teams up there, but man.
So, the thing about Scarlet and Violet, like, it has the bones of the greatest Pokemon game ever made.
Absolutely.
super strong story, really good gameplay ideas, great Pokemon designs and moves, and like battle mechanics. Like that's all great. Even like the open world mechanics are great. But I mean, obviously, it's the glitches and the performance issues. But I think it's a little bit more than that too, because you go to the towns. And I thought it was great that there were a lot of towns, which was awesome. I was like, oh, yes, there's a lot of towns. This makes it feel like a living, breathing world. Except when you go into the towns, all there is the gym challenge and maybe a shop or two.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go into any of the buildings. Like, in previous Pokemon games, every building you can go into. And if there's a building with several floors and several windows, there will be several floors with several rooms.
Yeah.
Not like that in Scarlet and Violet. It almost feels like they wanted to do that stuff, and they had they had to cut it out, but because they couldn't get it all in there in time.
Yeah.
So, and then like there are some really cool parts of the map, like Casa Royal Lake, but that has the worst frame rate. Like it's not fun to play there because of how bad the frame rate is. Most of the map is playable. There, it's unplayable, but otherwise, it would have been maybe one of my favorite areas. So yeah, I mean, I hope maybe like eventually they do something where it is like Scarlet and Violet, but it has a filled map, kind of like Tears of the Kingdom in a way, but to a far less terrible degree. Like his Breath of the Wild had content, right? Like it's not like we play Breath of the Wild, we're like, oh man.
Yeah,
like,
nobody played it, but it was like, oh, there's nothing to do. Like, no. There's we can enter all the homes, even if there's nothing in them, we can still go in.
Right. But in Tears of the Kingdom, they just added like instead of expanding the map left and right, they're like, you know what? Let's expand it up and down and go to areas that already existed and add other layers to it that people wouldn't even have thought, which is kind of insane. Like some towns, even though on the map it looks the same size, are not the same size because there's extra caves and wells and other areas. Like they just filled up.
If you haven't gone to Hateno Village, go to Hateno Village.
You know what? Now. I haven't yet.
Oh my god! You're saying this without going. Oh, Hateno is a whole thing.
I haven't gone to Lurelin either.
You should definitely go to Lurelin.
Yeah, Lurelin is one of my next ones coming up.
I've got that whole thing done.
Is where I haven't done yet. I kind of I started in the middle and just hung around Central Hyrule for like forever. Then I eventually did the Rito stuff, and then I was like, "Oh, I should go to Zora's Domain." But then, for whatever reason, I just went north instead to the Death Mountain, and then I went back to the Hebrew region where the Rito are, and then I just started going south. And now I'm like, "Oh, let me finish the Tears of the Dragon quest." I'm like, "All right, time to push north."
Yeah. It's interesting how we end up tackling games. Like we have like a little bit of a plan, and in Tears of the Kingdom, it just blows that plan up most of the time.
That's how I finished Breath of the Wild. I actually didn't play it at launch. I played it in 2020 during the pandemic, and I literally I would set the max number of pins and then go there, and then wherever I was, set another max number of pins and go there, and that's how I played the game, and it was amazing.
Nice,
very nice.
All right, let's get into some of the more fun topics because we get to talk about the future of Nintendo, everyone. We split it up the two different things. We're going to go software, then hardware, because software is obviously lots of fun, speculating on future games and possibilities. So what is that future lineup? So let's start off with the known things, which is a pretty short list. Are you guys ready? Pikmin 3 in July. DLC out the ass.
Pikmin 4. Right.
Pikmin 4. Sorry, yeah, Pikmin 4.
Pikmin 4 got delayed.
Yeah, Pikmin 4 got delayed, and they're re-releasing Pikmin 3 Deluxe U.
Yeah.
I wrote it. I was just reading what I wrote. I wrote down Pikmin 3. This is what happens when I'm in a rush.
Yeah,
Pikmin 4. Yeah, it happened with the Xenoblade DLC too. When I wrote
so many people call it Future Connected instead of Future Redeemed. Like my last video on it, I think I called it Future Connected like twice, and I was like,
yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, and you corrected me in the podcast. I was like, oh crap. Did I really just say the last DLC, not the current? Anyways.
Get it.
Yeah, it happens. They're such common, like similar names, so it's whatever. Anyway, so Pikmin 4 in July. Obviously, DLC out the ass. Metroid Prime 4 still listed as TBA. And that's it. You can go look at Nintendo's financial reports if you don't believe me. That's all that's there. There's nothing else. But what we do also know is that for the first time in a very long time, Nintendo is going to Gamescom, which is an E3-like demo event. They're also having a Nintendo Live 2023 at the exact same time as PAX West, and they're kind of trying to work out how people can attend both at the same time. And going to have demos. They've literally publicly announced we're going to have game demos here. So those are things that we know. We also know that the usual Nintendo insider rumor people like, Nate Drake or Jeff Grubb and others have been kind of hinting that they have heard absolutely nothing about a Nintendo Direct in June, which is usually a typical period that they do Directs. Now, Gamescom is in August. So chances are they got to announce something before that happens, because that's after Pikmin 4, and they wouldn't have anything. So they got to announce something before then, because we obviously didn't know what's happening the second half of the year. So that kind of gives us a timetable of the next 2.5 months. They've got to potentially announce things. So first off, when do we think they're going to, and will it be a Direct? And then how do you think they're going to position their lineup for this year if we assume there is no new hardware? That's the caveat, because the next topic's new hardware. We can dive
So I talked about this about a week or so ago myself. I think it's interesting you're talking about it now, because we just got the PlayStation Showcase, so it's kind of like Sony's doing like their E3 stuff.
Yeah,
now.
like they did their kickoff for the summer, so now it's like, all right, now we're getting this ball rolling.
So, if I'm not mistaken, Andy Robinson said that he heard nothing in terms of content coming late May, early June. Technically, that doesn't discount the possibility of late June. Technically, right. But I think also Jeff Grubb followed it up and said that, and he was just speculating. He clarified he was just speculating this time. He doesn't know, but he's speculating that it might be like last year. But I personally disagree, just because last year, while we did only get a partner showcase, which is just like a Direct mini with some third-party stuff.
Xenoblade Direct too.
And I was going to say, and there was a Xenoblade Direct, right? Yeah. The difference last year, though, is that we knew about the entire second half lineup already by this time last year. We knew about Xenoblade, we knew about Splatoon, Pokemon, Bayonetta, and Mario Rabbids. This year, we know about Pikmin 4. It's a very stark contrast. So I don't think Nintendo can just get away with a Pikmin 4 Direct and a partner mini. I don't see that happening. So my take is, and to your point about Gamescom as well, like are they going to just go to Gamescom with Tears of the Kingdom? I don't think so.
Just DLC.
For those who listen to just the audio version, I made a really weird sarcastic face when I said that. So my take is that there will be. I would like it to be a Direct, because those are more hype and exciting. But I think there will be a handful of announcements that are like first-party Nintendo games, or at least Nintendo-published games, to come out in the second half by mid-July. Like, that's the deadline.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully a Direct.
I can see July. Like, I know they're going to want to market Pikmin, but I mean,
right.
I
that's why I feel like mid-July is like the latest.
Yeah.
And even if it does happen then, like, I feel like there's got to be like a Pikmin 4 update before then, because you don't just talk about it for like until like a week before with nothing.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is they could do an August one, because Gamescom's like towards the end of August. But also that means that you're going to allow your fan base to know nothing after Pikmin 4 comes out for like, even if it's just like 2 weeks. It's like
they did that once, but that was 2020 when the world
pandemic.
And that
was a weird situation. Yeah,
right. I don't think that's gonna happen.
I think Nintendo can lean on third parties because even like we just talked about the PlayStation Showcase, a lot of those games are still coming to Nintendo. They have indies. I play all my indies on Nintendo on my Switch. I don't play them anywhere else most of the time. And also, we still have Nintendo Switch Online, which they still want people to like be super invested in. We still got Game Boy games they could drop. They got a couple more Nintendo 64 games they could drop. So honestly, they could give us games, even if they're not like new Nintendo Switch games, and they could kind of float themselves into that Gamescom period. But they do have to make some type of announcement for the holiday. I mean, I think Pokemon DLC is what we know. What is there another DLC that's coming out?
Splatoon 3.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
there's 2 more Mario Kart DLCs.
Mario Kart DLCs, yeah.
Right. And one of them
they can float the content, but I don't think it's going to be what we want it to be.
I don't think you can live off DLC, you know. Like
no.
Sell systems or
no.
Nintendo's got a Nintendo, man. I don't know.
They gotta have some for the holiday. They gotta have at least one game.
Oh yeah, for the holiday they'll have a game, but I don't
I know we said we're assuming no new hardware. Is there a world where Nintendo drops like a partner showcase in June and then does like a more full scale like first party direct in late July or early August? Or is that just like they just do it at the end of July and put everything together? Because I don't know if they've ever done that before.
So there's another consideration here. We always have a September Direct. Always. Even in the pandemic year, we had a Mario Direct and like multiple Nintendo announcements in 2020. Like September is always like a golden month for Nintendo announcements. So if we end up having like a presentation in like late July or August, that's not that far away from September. And it's to the point where there's no value in having a September Direct. So I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that isn't the case. It could be the case. What I'm getting at, though, is that if it is the case, I think it's because Nintendo's pattern or flow is being thrown out of whack because they are kind of positioning themselves for a next generation next year. So that's why there wouldn't be a typical September Direct, because maybe they'll have like one big direct in between the typical June or September time, maybe August, because it is all about kind of positioning themselves for like a 2024 like kickstart to their next generation, like maybe. So I'll throw that out there, but otherwise I feel like that they should probably not wait that long because they still need to have a September Direct.
I just think it's weird that they're going to Gamescom in August, and then what would they announce at a September Direct if they still had one? Like, not saying that every game they have would be at Gamescom, but
they had okay. So I'll just say this: Gamescom back in 2019, when the last time they were there, they featured multiple new games. They still had a September Direct, so I don't see how it would be any different. But of course, I'm going with the assumption that there will be games that they will announce within the next few weeks, maybe next month or so, to be at Gamescom to then talk about again in a September Direct.
Yeah.
I definitely see a September Direct. Like you said, that's a super important time of the year.
Yeah.
If they don't do anything in June, July, personally, because I have Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like, this is a huge game. Personally, as a fan, I'm like, okay, I see why they may be having kind of a light time. But if we get announcements in September that set up the holiday season, which is, another huge explosive time for them, I think they're good. I just don't know if they have to put out something in June, July, August time, because I mean they did that when the OLED dropped. They had that was E3, right? They dropped the OLED. Yeah. I can't remember what was in that announcement. The
OLED announcement was on its own in July.
Yeah, that was a separate
and
Twitter
then they
drop,
had already had their direct that was like, here's Metroid Dread, and
they had a typical E3 time. It was an E3 direct and the E3 time, but they had the OLED trailer afterwards. You're right.
Yeah, and I do the main agree thing was Dread from that. And would we consider a 3 million unit seller? Would we consider that? I can't. What else was besides Dread?
There was a pretty strong holiday lineup. There was 4 core Nintendo titles between October and November. If I remember correctly, it was Mario Party Superstars, Metroid Prime Dread, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and there's a 4th one.
It was Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl.
Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl.
Don't talk about that game. We don't talk about that game.
Yeah, we won't talk about that game.
But it's the best selling of those 4 games. That was actually a pretty killer lineup for October, November.
That was,
yeah. 2 killer.
But you also had the OLED dropping, so you probably positioned that correctly. But with it being the end of the generation and kind of moving towards that.
That was a great holiday period.
And then in the beginning of January, they put out Legends Arceus, which was arguably the best. Well, okay, awesome. Metroid Dread's my favorite, but like Legends Arceus is like the number 2.
Yeah, Metroid Dread was up for Game of the Year. That's just it was that game.
And then 2 months later, we got Kirby like that. Oh, come on!
That was a legendary run.
There was like a 6-month period there of just greatness from like IPs that don't always deliver in that way, and it was great.
Yeah,
it's interesting because like it kind of feels look, if they're gonna still hit that September period hard, then you gotta go in June and you just do it like you normally do. But the thing is, and the reason why it doesn't feel like it is because normally by this point, this close to June, the insiders have already heard something, at least whispers that there's a plan for there to be something, and they're not hearing anything. That doesn't mean it can't change. So we're only entering the beginning of June here soon, so it's not as if it's impossible for there to still be something towards the end of June, which is what they did last year. But it's just a weird position that outside of a pandemic year, we're not used to not knowing anything after July. Like you just even referenced like last year, before we even had the Xenoblade Direct, before we even had the partner showcase in June, we still knew about Xenoblade 3 and Splatoon 3 as an example, 2 massive games, and Scarlet and Violet. We knew about all of that stuff already, and we know about Pikmin 4.
Nate, I got breaking news for you.
Uh-oh.
I haven't said this before. It's nothing. No, I'm sorry. No.
I gotta raise my hopes like that. What's up? Oh my god!
I knew better. I've been doing this show.
It's Metroid Prime 2 and 3, isn't it?
All right, I'm not lying, but I don't know if I can trust it. All I'm saying is that someone told me that something pretty hype is happening in the next Direct. That's all. That's literally it.
Well, that doesn't tell me anything.
Well, it tells you there's a Direct.
If there's not something hype in the next Direct, then there's nothing.
That's so vague, and it's also
it could be anything.
Yeah, it's really. It's
literally. Was Xenoblade Chronicles X getting ported finally? Like some people would find that to be super hype.
Why would there be no Directs this year? Like I don't even. I'm just.
There's going to be a Direct at some point.
Don't even call it a source. It's not even.
Right? Well, there's going to be a Direct this year. Like I don't doubt there'll be another Direct.
Yeah.
It's just when, Like are they positioning to still have 2, or are they just going to do 1? Because they're shuffling things around for 2024.
All right. So just so you understand where I'm coming from, I am kind of like joking, but it's like with a degree.
But you're not.
But my point is that like I can't I basically someone just made me get excited, right? And that's it. That's all it is. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's something exciting coming. That's literally it. There's nothing else to it. And that depends on the person.
Is this someone you trust?
I wouldn't put too much into it.
The big exciting thing is another farming simulator.
Well,
but
I'll tell you what.
It's everything 1-2 Switch, and that's.
Well, I mean,
everybody. Sorry, everybody's is the name being thrown out.
Okay,
everything.
Listen. This is okay. Ignoring unfounded, untrusted source, right? We already have from a couple credible sources that Metroid Prime 4 is soon. So that's a big deal. For me, that's a huge deal.
Sure,
but for years, it's been Tears of the Kingdom and Metroid Prime 4. So for me, that's a big deal. If you're not a Metroid fan, start being one. But
great advice.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the thing is, Metroid Prime 4 is known. Like we know it's coming.
Right.
It's just, is it going to land this year? Or is it going to be next year? Don't know, but it's coming. We know it's coming, and obviously we've heard from a credible source that it's done and ready to go, and it's just when are they going to drop it? Which is totally up to Nintendo. There's a lot of things that they try to make a cross-gen title, so none of that's really confirmed. That's all speculation if they want to make it a cross-gen title. But like that's one of the known games, right? Like Metroid Prime 4, like, and that would be huge if it's in the Direct because we haven't actually seen it, and then that would make us feel like it's coming out this year. And I would agree that's massive, but also I know it. Like, what else you got for me? That's still the one. Remember, there was 2 games on Nintendo's little financial briefing. Those were the 2 games. It was Pikmin 4 and Metroid.
Oh, we got more. We got F-Zero.
I need more. I mean, that's what we think F-Zero is happening. We don't know.
Come on. How many different people who know things?
I know. Like, not just me. Like I have other people. Like
there's like I can name a half dozen right now.
But yet, how many times did this happen and the games just don't come out?
This is one of the ones this is like a Pikmin 3 Deluxe 3D All-Stars 2D Metroid kind of rumor to me. Those are all real, by the way. That people debated for like 2 years and they all came. So,
but I mean, I'm just saying, until it actually comes out, anything can be shelved.
Sure, you got to take it with a grain of salt. It could be canceled. It could be shelved. It could be saved for Switch 2.
And that would be bad for me, by the way. For my reputation to be bad if it doesn't.
Because you put out a report.
I have a couple rumors around F-Zero1, so like
there's a more shaky Paper Mario rumor. I'm kind of all right. So
Mario rumor too.
All right, so so about that, I don't want to act like all I'm gonna say is this. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. There have been a couple times I put out speculation videos, and then a week or two later I hear a rumor. Oh, this is happening, and I'm like, huh? Was that just because some people, including me, started talking about this because it'd be cool, or were we spot on, or is it just a bogus rumor? So one of those is Thousand Year Door. I was talking about Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and then like a week or two later, someone puts out a
Zippo. What's up,
yeah.
Zippo?
So, and what's weird is I don't want to act like people listen to me that much. Like I'm not that big. But if you're looking for material, there are certain creators that you just like. All right, there's like maybe 20 or so that kind of upload consistently, and if you're looking for material, you'll probably pick like one of them or something. So. It's
all you rumor mongers out there. I know you're watching my podcast right now. Let me just wish this into existence quick. I've heard through an imaginary grapevine that a brand new top-down 2D Zelda game is dropping this holiday.
Okay.
Liar.
I'm just trying to get this in the grapevine so a rumor monger picks it up and is like, hey, Liar. Zippo, new post in 2 days. New Zelda game dropping this holiday. I know where you
but that is the energy I sometimes get with like some of these rumors, right? So that's why, I try to be careful about what I talk about. Not saying I've never talked about Zippo because I have, because he keeps coming up for whatever reason.
At some point, just kind of mentioned it in passing.
Yeah, I remember we talked about Samus Hunter for a little while, and because at first it seemed like they had a good track record.
Well, they did. They did have a good track record because they were getting their stuff from legit other leakers,
right?
They couldn't figure out where it was coming from.
They were stealing it apparently.
Yeah. And then once that well dried up, that's when it started getting really bad. Like, how'd you go from always being right to always wrong? This makes no sense.
When they talk about Splatoon, like they talk about there being a big Splatoon tournament, when that didn't happen, I was like, all right, distrust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's a number of things. Or they were on the 35th anniversary train too, stuff, and it's like none of that happened. So.
Which I think and that's one of those things. And I wasn't the only one. There was a lot of people who were like, oh
well. No, so like Jeff Grubb was one of the biggest ones for the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, but he never said specifically it was for the 35th anniversary. He just said that they're done and they should be coming. But
it was just more fuel to that fire, that speculation train, right? And that train was purely born from the 3D All Stars hype. Because that was for the Mario 35th anniversary. So we thought, maybe they'll give us a Zelda 35th anniversary too.
Well, it doesn't also help that technically they did Zelda Game & Watch.
Yay.
Just saying, they specifically said we're celebrating Zelda's 35th anniversary. Here's Game & Watch. They said the words. They brought it up. Granted, they brought it up like 5 months after the 35th anniversary actually happened, but whatever.
Can we factor in Switch 2 into the plan?
No,
we can in the next when we switch over to hardware.
So all right, let's for the sake of argument, because spoilers, a video about this I'm making tomorrow. But
no, you're spoiling your own content.
Yeah. But like, so what do we think? Like Prime 4, Pikmin 4. I'm gonna go on a limb and say that we see both. I mean, Pikmin 4 is confirmed for this year, right? So but I'll go on a limb and say we all see Prime 4 this year, just because there are sources that seem to back it up a little bit. Okay. And it also, like, what else is left? So we got that. I'm gonna go ahead and say the F-Zero thing is legit, right? So we got Prime 4, Pikmin 4, F-Zero for the second half. We have Pokemon DLC, we have Splatoon DLC. Do we see Tears of the Kingdom DLC before the end of the year?
No.
Yes.
I feel like yes.
Fight. Okay.
Want me to fight? I don't think that. No.
I would say it's. I don't know. I feel like it could either be at a September Direct just to kind of like bump sales for the holiday. Not that it wouldn't sell without it.
I can see them announcing that you can now pre-order a DLC, but the DLC won't begin until next year.
It's either at a September Direct or they announce it at the Game Awards. Because if Tears of the Kingdom's not at the Game Awards, there's no way.
You know, if Tears of the Kingdom, if they know it's a shoe, like we talk about this every year, but if they know it's a shoe in for Game of the Year, it would be nice to see Nintendo get back on the Game Awards. Hey, we're gonna actually announce things here now.
Like, I mean, they did announce stuff last year.
Technically, that was the most involved. That was the most involved with the Game Awards they have been in a while. So I'm hoping that's a good sign that we can expect more from the TGAs going forward from them. But we'll see.
Yeah, but the thing is that I've been continually burned by putting faith in something happening.
Well, here's the thing. Here's all you need to put faith in. Tears of the Kingdom will be up for Game of the Year, and that's the discussion for that award. That's what you talk about for that show. Will it win Game of the Year? And bottom line is there will be an orchestration combination of Zelda with the other games, and it's going to sound epic.
Can't wait to hear the saxophone go hard.
The saxophone part in. They got to put the saxophone. Jeff Keighley, you got to put the saxophone part in.
Am I the only one that thinks that they didn't do the Xenoblade 3's music justice at the orchestra?
I think they did 100%. And I will fight for that point.
I know they did the flute thing, but it wasn't the right instrument.
I know it wasn't the right instrument, but I don't think that's fair because Monolith made their own flutes for the game.
Yeah,
that is tough.
So
they basically invented a new instrument for the game, and like I'm not going to expect an actual orchestra playing other people's music to just have that there.
I can take the L in that. I can concede that they probably did what they could.
And I just like how it mixes. Like, look, for all the things we say about the Game Awards, I love the music compilation they do for all of the Game of the Year things right before they reveal. Like, to me, it is one of the most epic moments in gaming because it's like you're hearing. Usually, you have some sort of Sony game, some sort of Nintendo game, some sort of third-party game. Sometimes an Xbox game slips in, an indie game, and you just kind of get this amalgamation of the entire year of greatness in one quick soundtrack over like 5 minutes. And it's all fully orchestrated, played live right in front of you. It's such a cool moment. It's one thing I think Jeff Keighley gets right every year at the Game Awards is that moment it's like worth it almost. I love video game music. Like, it's so cool, regardless of how crappy the show went before them. When that orchestra goes right before the Game of the Year award, I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. But
I'm still bitter.
And this year we know there'll be Tears of the Kingdom music in it, so that also and Tears of the Kingdom music slaps.
Oh, it does slap. That much I agree with. Yeah,
so great.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the most hype moment of the Game Awards for me is when Joseph Ferris takes the microphone.
Anytime he grabs the mic.
Anytime that dude grabs the mic, it is my favorite. I remember the infamous moment we're all thinking about.
Everyone remembers that.
That is my favorite Game Awards moment ever. It trumps the Breath of the Wild.
And I love how shocked Jeff Keighley was when he said it, and he's like,
this
is live,
right?
Yeah. Oh, it was the best.
Last year when you had
they need to make him a co-host. They need to get him drunk and make him a co-host every year.
By the way, the guy the Bill Clinton kid, how does he constantly show up everywhere?
I swear he's not real.
He was on CNN like the other day dropping in on something.
He's great. Dude, I see him on my YouTube Shorts feed all the time. Like, he's just everywhere. He's
constantly dropping in on live broadcasts where he's not supposed to be.
Yeah,
he's playing
all the time. He plans it out. It's crazy. How does he keep getting away with it though? Like, shouldn't he be in trouble by now for trespassing?
Get him and Joseph on the same. Like, give them microphones and let them narrate like one of the awards. Like, that would be amazing.
All I know is when Bill Clinton and rabbis are coming up, I'm just what is happening at the Game Awards.
I just remember watching that Game Awards show and going on Twitter right after, and everyone was like, "Why is Bill Clinton trending on Twitter?"
It was one of those things that, hey, if you hated all the awards, you love the end, right? The end was hilarious. Unintendedly hilarious. I felt bad for the developers because they were like all Japanese developers and had no idea what the hell was going on. So I felt kind of really bad. Like, that's embarrassing for the Game Awards and for those developers that don't speak English. But man, it was funny. It was funny.
It was hilarious.
But that's the thing. You can always go in the Game Awards. There's some sort of moment. Like I remember, even like before the Joseph Harris thing, in the early days of the Game Awards, I still remember Greg Miller's speech when he won like Content Creator of the Year or whatever when they used to give that out.
Yeah,
he gave a really passionate speech about game development and the people that don't get recognition.
That was a great speech.
And like so, like it feels like there is some sort of moment there every year. So it's kind of neat. Jeff Keighley's got a weird thing going on with the Game Awards where there's some great stuff, a lot of but it's still around and it's been running like a decade. So and it's better than what the Game Awards used to be.
The viewership numbers are crazy year after year on it. So
dude, everyone pays attention. Like I heard the peak viewers when the Game of the Year music was playing, so they were getting ready to announce it. I guess the peak viewership at the time was like 180 million.
Yeah,
peaking right at the Game of the Year award. Like, that's just nuts.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's get into what we've been dancing around, and that is the new hardware. Look, there's clearly new hardware coming. Nintendo's made it very obvious there's new hardware coming. They put it in the slide in 2021. I don't want to hear from the audience how it doesn't exist. Nintendo's told us it exists. Okay, they put up a slide in 2021 saying Nintendo accounts are moving forward to new system coming in 20XX.
No code name though, which is interesting because NX code name was announced 2 years before the Switch.
Do you know the story behind that? Because it was recently revealed why we knew about the NX code name.
I don't, Nate. Please enlighten us.
Okay. So this was actually revealed by Shintaro Furukawa himself. He talked about it at the investors meeting. They're asking about new hardware. Yeah, literally, it's the president of Nintendo. Like, there's no doubting.
I'm suspicious.
I'm not suspicious.
I'm pressing X for doubt.
Yeah, he basically said we were about to announce our partnership with Dena for mobile games, and they were afraid that there would be a negative reaction from the public and from their investors that they were going to be getting out of the console space. So they wanted to let everyone know we still have a new console coming. Here's the code name, and that's why they put NX out there. So he brought this up specifically because he was asked, hey, because we don't know the code name, does this mean the hardware is really far off? And he's like, no. That was like a special situation where we were trying to deal with what we thought could be a negative wave of attention with something positive. And he's basically just saying, it don't matter that you don't know the code name. You probably won't know the code name before it comes out. That's pretty much what he was saying. He's saying, like, we don't reveal code names. Like, if you actually go back through a lot of the days, like we knew some, like we knew Revolution and stuff like that, but we actually didn't know the code name for every single system. So there were certain ones we didn't know until they came out.
Wii U was Project Cafe.
Yep.
GameCube was on Dolphin. I think N64 was just Project 64 or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I don't know about any code names for handhelds.
Yeah, like there are code names for them, but a lot of them we found out after the system came out. Because so Nintendo is basically for Furukawa was just like, it doesn't matter that you don't know the code name, because like it's irrelevant. That was a special time. We probably won't ever leak a code name again unless we have a reason to do it. So that he's basically just saying, don't read into the fact we haven't put a code name out there that we don't have new hardware coming. We will release new hardware when we're ready, and that's basically, I mean, that's what it's going to be. So like, they're going to drop the new hardware when they're ready to drop the new hardware, and we're probably not going to know the code name. We'll know the name of the system before we know the code.
Nintendo 64
unless
code name.
It leaks. If it leaks from like a developer or something.
Nintendo 64 code name was NUS, abbreviation of Nintendo Ultra 64.
Ultra 64, that's what it was.
Okay,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
What was it? So, I was going to say, I just want to add that like, if you're looking at this situation thinking, oh well, if we compare every prior system and one Nintendo announced their hardware was always well in advance, like a year to 2 years in advance, like a year would be early way back when. That's not the Nintendo of today. The Nintendo of today is let's announce things and release them with really short turnarounds. So we're definitely already in that territory. Like if this was old Nintendo, we already know at least the code name, if not more, about the system, maybe an actual trailer already. But this is a much quicker turnaround. Like, for example, for comparison, back at the end of the Wii era, they actually announced the Wii U at E3 2011. It didn't come out for another year and a half, which is insane. They showed off a really killer, amazing tech demo of like the most amazing Zelda ever until Breath of the Wild, and then they released Skyward Sword, not HD, just Skyward Sword. And then we waited a whole other year with no games until Wii U. Like it was a very weird time. In contrast, the Switch, they announced it in October and it came out at the beginning of March. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have an even quicker turnaround this time, like maybe less than 6 months.
I like that though, because like I keep talking about the showcase, but I mean I think the last time Sony talked about, like, they did the 10 game showcase like a year ago or something. That game's like 2025. I'm like, what are we talking about those for? It's 2022. So I really like Nintendo's short turnaround approach, and I feel the same. I think they don't want to cannibalize sales. I think the Switch still is going to sell, period, even after the next gen Switch. But I think they want to keep it under wraps just in case.
Yeah, I mean, a quick turnaround I think makes sense in many aspects. People always talk about how, well, this is what they used to do. That's cool. But look at the rest of the tech industry. Everything is super quick. It's announced to release like a month, a week. It's crazy fast. And that has gotten consumers used to not wanting to wait for products. And so you even look at things like the PlayStation 5. I mean, that was announced with less than a year before it came out. I know the Xbox was announced almost a year before it came out because they appeared at the Game Awards, but PlayStation 5 had a much shorter shot to release. And, you look at all the revisions they do at PlayStation are always shorter to release. So I think Nintendo showed and proved with Switch that as long as you have a really good concept and you have a good library of games, it not only doesn't matter when we release the system, it doesn't really matter how much time we give that system to sit in people's minds. What matters is that we just get it out there. Like, even when you think, like, we've known about Tears of the Kingdom since 2019, technically, but they really didn't tell us much until the final 3 weeks. And then they took the lid off and it became one of the fastest selling Nintendo games ever. Now, granted, that had the momentum of the last thing. What do you think about this device? If it is following in the Switch footsteps and is going to be a Switch 2 type device, it might not be called that, then it is following in the footsteps of a super successful device. And my whole thought process with that is, if they go that direction, which I think most people sort of assume they will, because Nintendo has a history of super successful device, let's make another one of them. Try to anyways. What can they do with this device to have it reach the same success as Switch? Because that's the big question, is most of the time Nintendo fails at getting the same success as the prior system. So what can they do with this? That's what I'm really curious about in this conversation, because it might come out this year. It might come out next year. I feel like that's the window right now.
Next year.
Yeah, I feel like the next 18 months, I feel like, is the window. Like, it's coming
definitely
in the next 18 months. By holiday 2024, if we don't have it out, I would be so surprised and very disappointed, because that means they're running Switch into the ground like they did with Wii. And I don't want them to do that.
Oh, it would be terrible.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like the short turnaround for hardware, I feel like it helps Switch sales too, because if you're a person that's planning on buying a Switch and then, Nintendo announced new hardware, maybe I'll wait. But if they don't announce it, okay, they buy a Switch and they're also a person who cares about having the latest and greatest hardware, then the new console gets announced and comes out. Okay, well, now I'm going to sell my Switch and get the new console. You know what I mean? They may not want to hamper Switch sales late in this life cycle, try to get, the last few dollars in sales numbers out of it before they go ahead and be like, hey, new console,
I would say, I think it just needs to be the Switch, but better. Like, there's a reason, and maybe not as apparent
the
now.
Sony method.
But
that's all Sony does.
It works.
Yeah. It's also like,
why does that work when Nintendo can't seem to make that work? They didn't make it work with the Super Nintendo. They didn't make it work with the Wii U. There's a lot of times where the 3DS, technically half the sales of the DS.
Was the Wii U that much better?
Nintendo hasn't been able to repeat that success. Now, we can go over individual use cases on the weird, wonky ways why it didn't. But Sony clearly does something right for their transitions into what is basically the same system but more powerful. Nintendo hasn't done that well in the past.
I'd also say there's a reason people keep buying new iPhones. There's nothing different about the iPhone. You just want the newest one. Like I have an iPhone 13.
Is this a 14 or 13? I don't even know if you can tell.
Exactly. So I think if it's just the Switch and it's more powerful and they say, oh yeah, it runs your games looking better than they already do. And it's backwards compatible and all your digital games go forward and you don't have to change your account again. I think that in and of itself, especially if it's not like, oh, well, now we're asking $500. Like if it's $350 or $400, like I don't think that's too hard of a sell because that's all people really want. I don't want to have to go out and buy all new accessories for a new Switch. And then I got to wait for the third-party accessories because they're going to be way after. Like, just give me what I have, but make it more powerful and make it stronger. That's all I want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of trying to imagine like that trailer that they'll put out for this. It'll kind of like really hype us up, right? And I think like maybe they'll like have like maybe new Joy-Cons with more ergonomic grips. They won't say, hey, driftless, but they'll say maybe like new refined design, right? With more ergonomic grips. Maybe they'll tout a more efficient battery life, right? They'll tout 4K visuals, better frame rate on the, not on the go, but, you know, in docked mode. And then maybe they tout just overall better performance in handheld mode. Themes, just throw that, just a little blip.
That's music?
Too much.
That's
Too much.
Oh yeah, I'm
going too far here
I
now.
guess. Yeah, that's it.
Too much pipe dreams.
An
I have a
eShop that
question.
doesn't take 10
Asking
years
for
to
more
load.
power is too much pipe dream.
Game
I have a
on Virtual
question.
Console or NSO.
Or that.
Exclusive
Nah,
to
there's
Switch
too much
2.
money to be made on GameCube remakes. They're not gonna put it on there.
Dude, they're
Wait,
going with the
it's so
streaming
wrong.
stick. You
Yeah.
guys are all wrong.
I think you're right, Nick. But
not
Nate,
the Switch stick.
Yeah, they bought Google Stadia. And now they're doing. The
I
Switch
would
stick.
be visibly,
I would cry.
audibly, emotionally, metaphorically, always upset if the next Nintendo system is a USB drive.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
I'd laugh.
Yeah,
I
I'd
just
be
laughed
upset.
that that's even a thing they did.
I'd be
I'm like,
upset.
look, someday, sure, I could see a future when 90% of the world is on fiber that they decide, yeah, let's go streaming. But that is so far away.
Still not a handheld device.
far away.
So,
So far away, but it won't matter because if the whole world is fiber, then the whole world has the best Wi-Fi ever everywhere. So like you'll just always be connected.
If the dock becomes a USB, okay. But if the entire system's a USB, no, because you still want to have a portable device.
The USB is just a streaming stick. You could just grab your phone and stream your Nintendo games off the Nintendo app.
I just had an aneurysm.
No, wait. That's the next.
I'm just saying. That's a potential future that might happen before I die.
Without controllers? Oh, well, hopefully you live like
you can have controllers. Have you never hooked up a controller to your phone?
No, because I don't play games on my phone.
I
No,
have one
guys.
right here. Wait.
We've all missed
Yeah, where's that backbone?
Yeah,
That's
Where's that
it.
backbone?
Makes
Yeah,
really cool.
It actually
it's
works
great.
really well.
It does
with
look
phones,
pretty good.
It does work good. It's
Yeah.
actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It was on app. and everything.
PlayStation announced. the
I
new
use my
Switch today.
Xbox controller with my phone. I just like prop it up and go, all right, cool. I'm gonna play with my Xbox
You
controller.
use a Joy-Con on your phone.
Yeah,
You can do that, yeah.
you can. Yeah.
Yep. I have a question. Do we think Switch successor is 4K?
No.
No, I don't think. I think they'll do the thing like how the PlayStation box. You can see it right here in my background. It
It
says
says
up to
8K.
8K, but there's nothing 8K. Like I think it's gonna be like.
I think
up
there's
to
like
4K.
one game, like one indie game that is.
Yeah,
8K.
it's a the flying game. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah.
And the tourist.
Yeah.
Tourist is
Oh,
one of them too. But I think that's it. Yeah,
They can put 8K on the box because of that.
So,
So
I think it will be 4K, but not in true 4K. It's going to be the
DLSS.
the
Yes.
deep learning super sampling. So basically really smart upscaling that other systems don't really have.
This
right
is
now.
my hope.
So
It's 1440p docked. If
I
it
would
can
love
pull that off, then yeah,
I'm
they're
good.
doing 4K DLSS all day. It'll look gorgeous. Because
Yeah.
1440p looks so good with DLSS and 4K. 1080p looks a little rough around the edges.
But
here's
let me
the thing.
rephrase though. I agree with you, Sayran. I think it'll be DLSS to get to 4K, but to your point, I think it'll be up to 4K. But it'll be a case by case.
They'll put 4K on the damn box. That's
Oh,
just
yeah, they have to.
Yeah.
They're not going to
Yeah,
say up to. They're just going to say 4K. Just like
The way I see it,
it says
I'm sorry.
8K for a PS5. Yeah.
the way I see it is like the way they're marketing it is how do I get the kid to tell their mom or dad the buzzword or what's the buzzword? And 4K is the buzzword right now. There's nothing better. Like the average person doesn't know what 8K is, but I mean they might, but I really don't. I work in IT and I work with average people and they don't know what 8K is.
Dude, because it's not widely available. 8K displays are like very hard to get.
Super expensive. Ridiculous. So I think it's going to be what's the buzzword. I think 4K is going to be a buzzword. If we as gamers can like encourage the marketing teams to find a buzzword for high frame rates, maybe they'll put it on the box. But it's hard to market that.
60 FPS, everything, please.
Yeah,
nice.
No system promises that, but come on.
So an argument I've made in the past is that because OLED sales are the strongest of all the different SKUs for Switch, that bodes well for a more standardized, just kind of like Switch 2 kind of device, because it shows that people are willing to just have a better version of what we have now. So if they give a proper next gen, potentially it could go over really well.
I also think a big selling point would be, hey, all of those like 60 games you already own, they'll look better on the new thing, and you just have to download an update.
Even without,
without, they'll just
just DLSS alone, just automatically applying to them would be sick.
They still have to be patched to take advantage of DLSS.
Not all of it. Not all of it. I'll give you that example. Though this is FSR. On
and FSR 1 doesn't really do that much.
No. On Steam Deck, with FSR 2.0 and stuff, you can actually just turn it on for games that don't have it. And it makes it better. Yeah. So like
that's the difference.
The tech is there. Like, and this is a hardware level thing that's happening. So DLSS is different. You don't actually need to program it into a game for DLSS. DLSS is hardware level, not software level. So yeah, all they have to do is just let it happen. And now that doesn't mean the games will look magically better. But imagine that, like, your game that is, say you're playing Witcher 3 and you're like 420p or whatever in handheld. Well, now with DLSS, you're getting full 720p on that screen. And it looks so much sharper, so much better. And that could be the promise. It's like, hey, we're not talking about taking those old games to 4K without a patch, but we can bump just everything up to where you should want it to be 1080p and 720p and have it look clean, even if it's using dynamic resolution scaling, which, by the way, with more powerful hardware, that alone should make the dynamic resolution scale stay at the top, shouldn't it? You would think, if it functions correctly, but I didn't program those games to know how that works. So
I think the tougher question to ask, though, is that we can say, it's going to have better graphics, it's better performance, but
sure,
that's just all okay. Let's just make it better. But is there anything they're going to bring new to the table? Sure, but to a point you brought up earlier, Nintendo, while to your example, Super Nintendo, that one was kind of basically like an NES too, but it had more. It was 4 controllers, right? I think that was the innovation. 4 players, or was that no? That was N64. N64.
Yeah. No, it had 4. It had the 4 face buttons instead of 2, and then it had the other buttons.
Yeah.
So it added 4 more buttons.
Man, N64 was an actual. Okay, well that's a whole other conversation. But
that a joystick, and
N64 was a beast of innovation. But excluding that one, we have Wii U, which they tried to follow up on Wii, but it was totally botched.
It was a Wii for you.
That's what
they said. So they told me this is the Wii, but for you.
I think it was just an example at the time of how out of touch Nintendo was with like the Wii was dead. Like people who cared about the Wii, like the sales,
powerful system.
On. Yeah,
barely on par with the 360, and then they got the Xbox One the next year. Okay. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, the Xbox One wasn't that great, but anyways, moving on. The
3DS didn't do as good as DS, but it was still a solid system.
Well, here's what I'll say. 3DS sales are incredible. But to understand context, if you actually look at Nintendo's handheld sales, it's the worst selling handheld they've ever released, which is saying something because that just means all their other handhelds sold that much more.
It didn't beat Game Boy Advance? That was only out for like 4 years or something?
Nope.
That sucks.
I'm going to go check their Nintendo IR website.
That's interesting because the 3DS has the best Pokemon games of all time, Sun and Moon. So why wouldn't it sell like hotcakes?
What are you talking about?
You and the Sun and Moon.
Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
I love Sun and Moon.
I keep forgetting how poorly the 3DS did, like, financially, because I'm totally blinded by the fact that that was my first Nintendo, like, console, I guess.
Well, like,
and I loved that. That was my thing.
So yeah, so let's like if you look at how they classify it. So obviously the 3DS sold 75.94 million. That's no longer being made right now. So you want to round it to 76 million, fine, but it, you know, because there might be a few.
Game Boy Advance was at 81.
Yeah. Game Boy Advance had 81. Game Boy was 118. Now, granted, some people think it's cheating because they combine color in, but whatever. That's how Nintendo counts it. So when you look at that, and obviously DS is what it is. Yeah, like it's the worst selling handheld they've ever released. So it's crazy.
Which is
to
crazy.
Say that
Do we count Virtual Boy?
I mean, PlayStation 3 is the worst selling console that PlayStation's ever released.
It's crazy because the 3DS had, I mean, A Link Between Worlds. It had Animal Crossing. The Animal Crossing game on there was
the best Animal Crossing game.
Hours into that. Yeah, honestly, yeah, I love New Horizons, but New Leaf, I put way more hours in that. I mean, you had
Samus Returns,
Metroid game on there. Samus Returns, yes.
And now that I'm actually looking at this, not only is the worst selling, it's still the least.
Mario Kart 7 was a beast of a Mario Kart game.
Mario Kart 7 was a beast.
Yeah. It's also a
it had good third
Time
parties.
3D remake, Majora's
Mask.
remake.
Yeah.
No,
it had really good
saying
third parties too. Street Fighter, the Monster Hunter games.
Here's credit to the
games.
Metal Gear. Credit to the games. It sold 391 million pieces of software, and despite selling 6 million less than Game Boy Advance, that actually sold more software than Game Boy Advance.
So it made more money.
And that's a debate. We don't really know what the profit margins are and everything. So Nintendo doesn't separate out.
More expensive system, but also inflation.
Yeah, it's really hard to know. But also, you know, you look at it as like DS doubled the sales of that, but then more than doubled the sales of software. So like it was a massive drop off from the prior generation. Obviously it's the worst. Like people always get mad at me and what do you mean? I'm like, it's just the fact that it's the worst selling. It doesn't mean it was bad. It's just
it was also
technically Wii U and 3DS were the worst selling home consoles for Nintendo, or consoles for Nintendo, and it happened at the same time. There's a reason they lost money for a couple of years because they technically
fell
had
off
the worst
a cliff
systems. Yeah,
from Wii to DS, their most successful for each platform. Ever to their least. That's
it's crazy. Yeah, like they literally lost almost all momentum, basically, like just gone.
But on paper, the 3DS was so good. I mean, but that's the thing.
Now Sony hasn't figured it out with handhelds, but with home consoles, man, they just know how to maintain the audience, the system. So like when I'm looking at this, I keep going like, well, what can Nintendo do to do that? And I don't know what Sony's trick is, because most of the time they're just giving you a more powerful system. Yeah, they did innovate with the controller this time, but I still don't think that's what sold the PS5.
I have a theory.
Exclusives. In the product, you got exclusives for Sony over Xbox. You know, Sony exclusives are touted as being way better than Microsoft's time over time.
Well, we're talking about Nintendo and Sony at this point. We're not talking about Microsoft. Sorry, Microsoft.
Yeah, I got a theory for you guys. So I mean, something that kind of occurs to me as we talk about this, right? Like, as you just noted, Nate, the handhelds have always done well. Even the 3DS that was the least successful, still really good. Like that was Nintendo's bread and butter for that generation because of how unsuccessful the Wii U was. And the Switch is a hybrid. So if we just look at it from a handheld perspective, Nintendo's never missed, right? So we got that kind of going. But then also, my theory is that maybe one of the other factors that perhaps we don't consider as much as to why the Switch is so successful is because it's both a home console and a handheld. So before, there were generations where there were some people who would just go with a home console for the generation or just go with a handheld for a generation. Because the Switch is what it is, it brings in all type of Nintendo fan. Because there are a lot of people who just gamed on 3DS during that time and just ignored Wii U. With Switch 2, it's gonna get any Nintendo fan.
You could argue everyone ignored Wii U.
Hey, there's 13 million.
I was one of them. I bought multiple of them.
We stood strong.
Yeah, I love the Wii U. I logged so many
Tried.
hours into Hyrule Warriors on that Wii U.
But I'm also someone that I think it's more likely that everyone that owned a Wii U owned a 3DS as well.
Oh
I would say.
I mean, I own multiple 3DSs during the lifetime of the Wii U, and I only owned one Wii U.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things. Like you look at the next hardware, how can they do it? Obviously, shorter announcement to release is nice, but you know, I've talked about this in a live stream before. Things like, what does Sony do to help maintain momentum? Yeah, they got brand loyalty, but how did they get that brand loyalty? Because they just do things different. Like Nintendo has always sent systems to die before they release a new one. That's just what they do. Whether it's given us 16 months announcing Wii U to the release of the system coming out.
It's not always true, though.
Well, when did they send a system to die before they released a new one?
Game Boy Advance to DS.
Sure. I'll give you the Game Boy Advance to DS. That was an interesting situation because they weren't sure that DS was going to take off. So that was that way, but it was still different. Like they weren't sure. Like they weren't ready to abandon Game Boy yet. Like they had a backup plan if DS didn't work.
Well, I think that was. I'm just saying, like they might
never
have a
released
backup plan.
The backup. I'm very curious what the new Game Boy was going to be if that failed, but.
I think there's, if anything, well, I mean, Wii U, there wasn't really a backup plan. They just
they thought they legitimately came. Iwata legitimately said this is going to sell 100 million units again, and I'm just like, So about that.
I mean, I kind of get. They
were very confident.
There are times I upload a video, I'm like, all right, this video is going to do really well,
and then it doesn't.
And then it doesn't.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
Look. Sony does a few things that Nintendo doesn't do. Like when I say Nintendo sends systems to die, they generally do not keep a very strong lineup in the last year of the system. It's just something Nintendo just doesn't do. Sure, maybe Pokemon still comes out because Pokemon Company usually is one of the last major IPs to shift over to a new hardware because they like to have more systems sold before they drop their games. That's just the way they are. They don't like to be the game that sells the systems. And that's fine. That's just the way the Pokemon Company's always been. But in general, like, hey, the last year of Wii leading into Wii U didn't have anything really. No system sellers. They saved everything for Wii U, which feels weird because then Wii U didn't necessarily have that much either. But that's a whole Wii U thing. They did the same thing with the Nintendo Entertainment System. They did the same thing with the Super Nintendo to the N64, the N64 to the GameCube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That final year, they just didn't release big games. Sony's the opposite. They'll announce a PlayStation 5 and still drop Ghost of Tsushima. They'll announce a PlayStation 5 and still give you Last of Us Part 2. Like they keep dropping big games even if a new system's announced. Like they don't go, we're going to delay this game for the next system. No, we're not. It's ready. We're dropping it. And that has created this customer loyalty because customers know if I buy a PS5 day one, even if it doesn't have games now, I know through consistency, through PS1, 2, 3, and 4, that they are going to support this thing all the way to the end.
Still waiting for Final Fantasy.
So they feel confident buying the system, even if it doesn't have the game they have now, because Sony's created that confidence and support. Nintendo is always like, we front load and then let systems die. That's sort of been their mantra. Now, it has been different with Switch. They didn't just front load, they didn't just back load or mid load. It's a combo system. It has their handheld and home console in one system. It's created much more consistent release schedules. But that's still that fear. Oh, if we got to bank games to have a killer year one 2017 lineup for that next system, then at some point you stop releasing games for the other system. And that's a very different mentality than Sony has. So I always question, how can Nintendo transition without losing momentum or maintaining momentum? And it takes a different mindset. And we know that Nintendo's thinking about it because Furukawa said in his first few, public talks with the investors, hey, I've been here. I've seen the cliff. We don't want the cliff to happen again. We don't want to fall off. But then they never really have given us any strategies yet on how they're going to prevent that fall off when switching to new hardware. And the only example we have that's been consistent is Sony. But I don't know that Nintendo's going to do the Sony thing where they still like, look, I'll give them this. If the new hardware comes this year, okay, they did drop Tears of the Kingdom.
It will not come
and that's a bit of a Sony move. That's a bit of a, we didn't delay this for launch. We still gave it to you the same year that we were launching new hardware. But
it's not going to come this year.
But yeah, if it comes this year, then maybe they've done it. But we'll see.
How long do you think the Switch is going to cross gen over into the next generation Switch?
A year.
I think
minimum.
A year.
I think they're quick to cut because I mean PS4 is still getting support in like 2024. I think like early 2024. It's kind of crazy. I think Nintendo does a hard cut as well.
You know, at first for like this, like throughout most of this year and last year, I was thinking that Switch was going to have 2 to 3 years of support afterwards. Mm-hmm. But if Switch 2 doesn't come out this year, I do kind of start to, I think I might be inclined to agree with you because like the longer you wait, the easier it is to have that cutoff. So, and especially like if they want, well, you know, as we're kind of talking about like what can Nintendo do to kind of make sure the next system is successful, maybe it is exclusives. Maybe they have an incredible Mario game that is going to blow our minds, but it's not going to be on Switch. It's going to be Switch 2 only. And when they show that off, it's going to be amazing. But in order to not piss people off, make sure things are ready, they're going to wait a little bit longer. So that way, when it is exclusive, we're not as angry about it. And when I say we, I mean the general masses, because I'm going to buy whatever Nintendo does if it's like legit.
Oh, yeah.
So
day one. Pre-order.
Yeah. for sure. I'm going to try to get it before day one if they let me.
So now that Eric's back, Eric, what would you do with this hardware? Like how would you transition to the next thing?
Buy an Xbox.
No, I'd like to see something, you know, at bare minimum as powerful as the Steam Deck. Bare minimum. But to transition, I mean, I don't think they have to change much. They've got a system that works, and if you know, you kind of keep the same things as you have, but just kind of make them again. Obviously, what's been said, make them better, with at least a bare minimum of the Steam Deck power, if not a little bit more, because I'd like to see them outpace that, which is doable now with, you know, the new technology. That's kind of where I would go with that one. Just kind of, I like the way the Switch plays. I like what it does. Like to see it, you know, just be a little bit better.
Has to have backwards compatibility.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Yeah. So do we think they're going to do the cross-gen thing for a while?
Yeah. I think for a year, just so that
Nintendo's never really done it.
Yeah, they haven't done it, and I don't see them doing it now, really.
They've done it at launch. That's been about it. And even then, it really wasn't cross-gen. It was 2 different versions of the same game.
I think they do it now for a year, just because, like we've said, there's PlayStation who continually does it. And that's how you build that brand loyalty that you were talking about, is not making people feel like they need to be there day one. Like, yes, I want to get this more powerful system eventually, but I don't need to get it right this second. Like, I don't need to go get the iPhone 17 or whatever number they're on, but eventually I will have to go out and get it. So I think it's a gradual thing. And that also, would that not also help with like to keep things in stock, because then you don't have everyone rushing to get it, and it kind of helps the supply chain just a little bit and kind of spreads it out over a longer period of time.
I feel like if they have a Mario game at launch, it'll be cross-gen. But after that, like 6 months later, that's it. You know, I feel like, if you want to play our new games, get our new system. I feel like that's going to be their MO.
Yeah. Like, here's my thing. I don't know if they're going to do cross-gen or not. I think it'd be smart. I think it's another takeaway they could have from Sony, is that they do cross-gen. But Nintendo's always been this big believer that our games sell the systems, and to do cross-gen would mean that you are saying I don't need exclusive games to sell the system, and I don't know that Nintendo fully believes that. What I do think is if they go cross-gen, and this might be the smart move, sure, have a big exclusive at launch, whatever it is. Like if you're gonna have a Mario Kart game coming out, that doesn't need to be cross-gen. Like that could just be on that system.
Oh, there's no way. The new Mario Kart is no way it's going to be cross-gen. They gave us all this. No.
Yeah. So like that would be one example where okay, that one doesn't really need to be cross-gen. But let's say they drop a 3D Mario game to launch the system. You could be leaving a lot of sales by not having it cross-gen. But also that could sell a system. But then what you need to do is you need to pair it with something else at launch that is cross-gen. And this is where I bring up the whole Metroid Prime 4 thing, where that could be a cross-gen title that's also there day one. That's better on the new system, but still on the old system. And then you create that expectation that maybe Nintendo will have and they could even announce by then that our next, we're also going to launch in year one of the new system, a new, I don't know, let's say Paper Mario, and we're going to have that be cross-gen. A new Luigi's Mansion, let's have that be cross-gen. But then say their big holiday game would be, I don't know, a Splatoon 4 or something like that. That's going to only be here. They like a mix of cross-gen and not cross-gen to make you feel like, oh, we need the new system for these games, but also Nintendo's still giving us some goods on the old, which is not what Sony does, by the way. Miles Morales was their big launch game. You could play it on PS4. They technically gave us Dark Souls Remastered as one as well, but again, that was a remaster. So it's interesting because that is still different than what Sony does, and I don't even know if it'll work.
I think they also do kind of like they could drop Metroid Prime 4 this year.
Sure.
And there'll be a next-gen Switch version because Retro Studios, we see what they did with Metroid Prime Remastered. They can do it. They can drop a very nice current-gen Switch game, then take 6 months, finish working out, iron out the next-gen thing, and then drop that at launch. Because I would buy both. I love Metroid. I would buy both.
Yeah, right.
But,
yeah.
You know, if you're someone who was like, I didn't even have a Switch, I
was thinking of like
then get it launched.
The double whammy where you hit on the larger audience of Mario, then you hit on a more core audience with a Metroid.
Yeah.
Because like they did that. If you think about Wii Sports was sort of like, hey, we're hitting on a broad audience with that, but then we also have Twilight Princess. That's a cross-gen title, But
I think it's interesting kind of like thinking about like the history of Nintendo and how they've transitioned. And like to your point, Nate, like they've done a great job of being terrible at transitions.
Especially after successful systems.
Well, and it's almost like they do it by intention, right? Like it's almost like they wait so people lose interest so they can just do a cold turkey switch over. Because like Wii was dead for at least a year when they transitioned over. Like that last, like his Nintendo, and this is why it's very hard to predict what's going to happen. Because typical Nintendo, historical Nintendo is droughts, especially on the tail end of a system's life cycle. And that drought sort of facilitates a new console launch. People are ready to move on by that point because there are no games coming already. But the difference for Switch is that there is no such thing as droughts. We get a published Nintendo title almost every month, and if we account for averages, I think it's more than one per month. Obviously, some things are smaller than others, but point is, it's a very consistent schedule. So, if Nintendo were to all of a sudden go back to old Nintendo and just start having droughts, just so they can have a cold turkey switch over to Switch 2, that would be very. I mean, I think it's gonna throw everyone for a loop, right? Yes, right now we don't know about much beyond Pikmin 4, but I personally believe that they're not gonna just stop. I don't think they're gonna stop. I think they're gonna continue coming out with games, but maybe this is a sign that they are gonna have a drought, and they're gonna have a drought because they are just gonna use the drought as a moment to transition over.
No,
which I think is stupid.
No. If we hit a drought, the next system's done. It's a failure. It's just going to tank. I'm sorry.
We've
seen this play out. We've seen this play out.
We talk too much about games and stuff. There's so much media around games now that you can't have that drought. And then because the push isn't we want games, give us games. The push is people like us who constantly talk about Nintendo and push the general audience to what we think is cool. Like I think that is they can't have a drought. If they have a drought, they're done. Yeah, it's cooked.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess with that in mind, right? If there isn't a drought, then I think that sort of supports the idea that they do have to have at least a little bit of cross-gen stuff.
Yeah.
But that's why it's tricky, because I'm not sure. I feel like it also depends on how they market the next system, right? Because if they market the next system as more of like a deluxe version, right, of Switch, where it's fully backwards compatible and it does all these things and it has some exclusives at first, but mostly third-party stuff, and just enhanced looking and performing Nintendo games, I think that'll work out, because at first it's going to probably be really tough for them to even like maintain stock. It's going to have high demand. They're not going to be able to meet that demand at first. That's usually how most console launches are. So having an exclusive at first may not even matter, because they're not going to really need that extra push. Having the exclusives in that second or third year where the supply and demand are starting to equal out, that's when it kind of makes more sense, maybe. So maybe that's the direction we're going to go, but it's Nintendo, so they're really hard to predict.
I mean, that's the Sony way. The third year is when they start to give you the exclusives. Everything else is cross-gen and a really strong end to the prior gen. And I don't know that Nintendo's willing to do that. That would be great. That helps that transition. I mean, Sony's proven that's how you transition. You keep the old base very, very, very happy until they can readily get their hands on the new system.
I know this is third party, but like the new Assassin's Creed game is releasing on last gen and current gen consoles.
Yep. No Switch.
You know, and how long has the PS5 and PS4 been coexisting for? And the new Assassin's Creed game is still coming out on both systems. You know what I mean?
To be fair, that's like the longest in development Assassin's Creed game like ever. So they started making that on like PS4.
Right, but even the latest Call of Duty title, like, you know, PS4, I play with a friend that still has an Xbox One, and he's totally happy with it. Totally happy with it.
Tell him to get an Xbox One X, man. It's time to upgrade.
It really is. It really is time to get a Series X. But, you know, Nintendo owners don't have that luxury of just keeping the old system around.
Just get them a Series S. Just happy birthday.
The Series S is a great option. It's a great option.
I've thought about it.
All right. I've got one. It's nice.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah. You're going to have to get a memory card, but I mean, at this point, you're going to have to do that for no matter what you buy.
Yeah.
The games are so massive.
Here's my crackpot theory. I think I've figured Nintendo out. I think.
Here we go.
Let's see.
In
Look, we
June,
got it down. It's on lock.
In June, we get a partner showcase. Sprinkle out some games for July and August.
We finally see Hogwarts Legacy on Switch.
In July, we get the big Nintendo Switch 2 presentation or whatever that announces the new hardware. And then they show the hardware at Gamescom in August, and then we get our normal September Direct with all of the games that are going to be on the new console.
And it's dropping this holiday, I assume at this point, yeah.
No,
that has been a thought of mine for quite some time, and I love it. I wish the only thing that gives me pause are like the insiders that are like, Nintendo recalled dev units. Okay, well then this thing's not this year. But then there's, but what about that person on 4chan that said one of the Pokemon DLC updates is going to be a graphics enhancement patch for the new system? And it's like,
hasn't been deconfirmed.
And everything else they said was right. And like, the theory is, they threw that in to throw people off. So they were 100% right on everything, but this one little detail that they did to throw the scent off them. I mean,
some people do stuff like that though.
But they gave such exact detail. Like,
here's something else to consider.
All that.
The reality situation is that both can be right and both can be wrong. Because it could maybe the case that when that person said that, it was based off legitimate information, but plans.
It sounded like
change.
It sounded like it was like, I'm working on that. Like, this is stuff I worked on.
Sure, but that doesn't mean that it can't still be pushed out till later. Like maybe at one point they were aiming for a holiday 2023 release, and they had to push it up.
Winter.
I'm talking about Switch 2 being a holiday 2023 release, right? So my point is that they may push it up, and it may just be content that's ready and waiting for that time.
You know what? Just because of Nick Barrett, I'm staying on the 2023 train. I'm saying. I'm not getting off. Forget the insiders. Forget the Digital Foundry. Oh, they recalled. You are not a developer. You don't know what's happening. Nintendo will notoriously screw over third-party companies and just do their own thing. So don't worry about it. The only company that probably has a legitimate one right now is Capcom. And we're going to get some sort of Monster Hunter thing at launch. So let's go.
Oh, yeah. Or Resident Evil.
Or Resident Evil. Yeah, that whole rumored Resident Evil game. They moved it to next gen. Let's go. Hogwarts Legacy. Why do you think it was delayed? They found out the new Switch is coming this November. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm still telling my friends to go buy a Switch if they want one. I'm sorry.
No, but here's the thing. You shouldn't buy it. What did I say earlier? Unless it already has the games to justify the purchase. That's rarely true at launch. Rarely is that true at launch. I mean, and then you had Samuel A with the $5. You're saying, do you wait till holiday 2024 to release Switch 2? Or is it going to be early 2024, even late 2023? Well, I'm in the late 2023 bandwagon now.
I'm staying late 2023.
Where are you guys at?
We need it to be there.
2024.
Oh, let's steal the room. Where are we feeling? Holiday?
2024. I'm not going to be holiday. No way.
The holiday 2024?
Yeah, mid 2024.
Summer?
They could do an OLED time frame. How they did with the OLED. They can do that.
I mean, the OLED was still close to holiday.
See, but we're 2 years out from an OLED. The OLED was announced in July, and it came.
Oh, here we go. Now we're bringing up the 2-year cycle.
The pattern.
Here we go.
There is a
just saying.
Pattern.
Why would they need to go to
then the OLED? Now the new one, maybe
they're doing a Switch Lite OLED, guys. That's what it is.
Could you imagine if we're all like, oh my gosh, it's Switch 2.
We did get something out, guys. A new OLED Switch Lite. We're charging you $50 more. Have a good day.
Honestly, that it could work. That could be.
I'd buy it. I think it's pretty cool.
But here's the thing.
It would be a great to demonstrate.
I know.
At the
so I know the OLED, right, instantly became the best, the number one selling system when after it came out. But system sales still were dipping. Like it didn't turn around the system sales dip. So it's like if they're trying to turn sales around, it doesn't really turn it around. It just replaces sales you're already going to get anyways. So it's kind of like it's not really going to make things better. I mean, it will for people who buy the Switch Lite, I guess, if you want to spend $50 more for some reason. I just don't feel like they're going to do that. I think they like that budget system. What do you guys think about that report out there about supposedly LCD screens might be what they use with the next system?
Was that for the Switch? I thought that was
we have no idea what it's for.
Yeah,
it's for an unannounced gaming platform.
There are so many gaming platforms technically that just we don't care about. Like think about how there's so many Switch lookalikes. There are so many. I will say this. I can understand if they go with LCD because it is technically cheaper than OLED. I can understand if they went with it because of the power packed in to make it affordable. Like if we can cut $20 off the price by going with LCD, make it more consumer friendly that way, but because we packed in better hardware, I would prefer that sacrifice. I mean, look at all those power, like you just mentioned. Look at all these other. Look at the Steam Deck, and all of them are using LCDs. Why? Because OLED adds too much to the price.
But can they go back to LCD?
I know that's the hard part.
That's so hard.
That's what's so hard.
I don't know
unless it's a new type of LCD that can kind of compare
Mini
to
LED.
OLED.
Let's go. Yeah. Mini LED is really good too. But that's also not cheap.
Doesn't Apple use that in an iPad or something?
I'm not sure. They've been using Retina displays, whatever technology that is. I don't know.
I mean, if you got a nice display that's technically LCD, that's like proprietary, like I said, Apple has the Retinas, which look really good, even though they're LCD technically. Sure, but they shouldn't.
I know, I love it so much, but also it's like, yeah, but if I get a little extra power because you did that, and you kept the price at under 400, all right.
To go back to the Sharp thing, do we know what screen is going on that new PlayStation thing? Could that be what that was for?
That's what
we don't know anything about it.
It's for the Q. That's right. I swear they're gonna charge like $200-$300 for that stupid thing.
300.
I'm just glad nobody's calling it a Switch killer. I really hate that term.
Well, no, it's more comparable to Wii U than it is Switch. Like, I heard someone say, "Oh, Sony answered Switch by giving you a gamepad." Congrats.
I didn't watch the showcase, so I just know there's
with less functionality than the gamepad. By the way, I can't use it as a TV remote.
You don't know that yet.
Yeah, you're right. Technically, they might put a TV button on there. Look out! Watch out.
8-inch.
Or just Sony Bravia.
There you go. Works natively with Sony Bravia. Don't worry about it. So I'm just looking at my little notes on the discussion points for this.
LCD.
Yeah. Do we? How do I phrase this? I'm trying to find a way to phrase this that doesn't sound stupid, because what I was about to say was going to make me look like the dumbest person in the world. So give me a moment to think about this. While I'm thinking about this,
What do you guys think?
What do you guys should? While I'm thinking about what I was going to say in a way to phrase it that doesn't sound so stupid, what do you think the launch game should be?
It's Mario.
Mario. After the Mario movie made $1 billion, there shouldn't be any other.
I don't know why. See, that was a dumb one too. See, I was trying to get a filler one in there while I'm thinking. No matter what I say, I sound dumb right now.
All right,
Eric, come up with a question.
Yeah, you're sitting next to me. And you feel dumb.
I feel dumb right now.
I could just make a point while you think, because there's something I wanted to get at. Because I actually didn't kind of express my thoughts on when I think Switch 2 is coming. I just stayed quiet because I've been back and forth on it with you for the last
for
2 years.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I feel that there are a lot of signs suggesting that something is around the corner, but at the same time, there isn't any hard evidence that it's happening this year. Like when all the insiders are not saying it's coming this year, it's really hard.
But then again, all the insiders said Switch Pro, and we never got that. I'm just
Switch
right.
OLED was the Pro.
Fat L. All the insiders took a massive fat L last time they talked about
They did. It is
so maybe they're about to take another fat L that they really don't know what's going on.
But how often is it the case that it's the other way around, where when it's insiders saying, "Hey, we're going to get remastered,"
nobody knew that was dropping. People knew it was done. Nobody knew that shadow drop was out of nowhere.
Well, that's just because Nintendo waited until beyond. They waited so long that we gave up on expecting it.
But it's not just that they gave up. There wasn't a single insider that said it was dropping at that direct.
Well, I did. Okay, I'm not an insider, but I did.
Yeah. See, get out of here with your prediction.
Yeah, but I also predicted it every direct, so
that should be right.
That's what it'd be like. I'm pretty sure you use every direct.
Yeah,
It's crazy. Okay, here. I'm gonna throw out what I was gonna say because it's just dumb. But here's one. We do know that regardless of what happens, Nintendo's gonna try to do something different with it. Okay, something different. I don't know what it's gonna be, because like we kind of say it just needs to be a more powerful thing with like better Joy-Cons or whatever, and call it a day. And most of us would be really, really happy. And that's the Sony way. But every now and then, Sony will do something different as well, such as with the DualSense controller. So, what is going to be that different thing? Because Nintendo's never released a platform without there being something different. Just something. It's never exactly the same.
I got it. You ready? Are you ready? You ready for this? I don't think you're ready for this. You're not ready for this.
They're going to UMD discs.
Clamshell. I keep telling you guys.
Oh, here we go. A DS.
Man, these are all fantastic ideas, but I'm gonna throw you guys for a loop. All right, just let me paint a little bit of a picture first. All right, so.
Oh, I love this. This is old school podcast style right here. Here we go.
All right, so Tears of the Kingdom. We don't know when DLC is coming. I do, in my heart. I don't know. But I kind of feel like they're gonna save Tears of the Kingdom DLC for Switch 2. Okay.
With you so far.
Maybe even exclusives. Like it might be like a big DLC adventure a year, 2 years down the road. Like maybe we'll see. But the bigger point to make here is you look at Tears of the Kingdom, you look at the new audio technology they have for that game. The sound effects are on another level. When you go underground in the depths and you put on a headset, it is an experience. Not only is it like just super cool and there's so many sound effects, but it's scary, right? Like it is a little bit of a horror element. And now you consider these rumors of Metroid Prime 4, right? And then there's the talk about will Prime 4 in some way or form be related to Switch 2 as well. And the Metroid series historically has a little bit of a horror element too. So what if Prime 4 and Tears of the Kingdom do have some sort of Switch 2 version down the road? And it's not just about better graphics, better performance. There's another factor, or actually a few other factors. They will improve the HD Rumble. But not only will they improve the HD Rumble, not only will the controllers be more ergonomic and just maybe, they'll just fit a little bit better, but also they will sport technology that will be something that they have been building on for years. And the initial concepts would be something we know as the vitality sensor. They're going to bring it back. The controllers will measure our heartbeat, and there will be games built around that. There will be the Metroid, Zelda. There will be horror elements that are measuring our heart rate, and they'll be throwing in elements like that to really throw us for a loop. But better yet, it'll go beyond that too. They'll even have a sports title, and it'll be measuring our heart rate with that as well. So
that's Nintendo enough to work.
The improved HD
it's the IR sensor of the generation that'll never be used.
I was about to say the IR sensor.
It'll never be used.
But it will be really cool.
I think
for the first week.
You're setting up that just about what I'm thinking too. I think this is going to be the system of peripherals. So like AR, VR.
Which work really well with vitality.
Well, for AR, it needs a camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just smack a camera on the back of it.
Yeah, right on the back of the
Make it a
clamshell
sheep
design.
Or a pad, excuse me. Pad.
Yeah.
Put a giant camera on the back. And
Look, they did it on DS and 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, anyways.
Yeah, I think it's just it's going to be a system of peripherals with AR, VR, the vitality sensor, things like that. I think it's going to be a peripheral laden system, which again fits well with Switch 2. Again, I keep going back to Switch 2 VR, Switch 2.
But see, like peripheral is typically not like an out of the box change. Like you could just keep doing peripherals. We technically had cardboard VR on this system.
Yeah,
we had a form of AR with Mario Kart Home Circuit. So that you can do the peripherals are accessories. Just let's call them what they are. They're accessories that are optional. Nintendo, when they make a system change, doesn't make this option. It's just there. Now, it might be optional for developers to use it. Hence, Andres Restart's idea with the whole sensing stuff. The Nintendo's idea with the IR camera that nobody uses. So I'm thinking like there's something like someone could say obviously the clamshell, we sort of show that in the thumbnail today with the foldable screen. Like obviously I don't think they're actually going to do that, but could that be what they do next? Maybe. They've technically done something before, but it was two separate screens. Now they don't have to separate it. It could just be folding screen technology, which is still probably too expensive for that to be realistic, but it's interesting to think about like what Nintendo's going to do different because I don't think they have to do anything different. I think they could just go boom. Here's a sleeker Switch. We slightly redesigned the Joy-Cons so they look a little different. Although your old Joy-Cons will work with it. These are Joy-Cons 2.0. We got better, taller sticks or whatever they do to fix problems, right? And then they just say bunch of quality of life improvements, more power in your pocket.
And
play your 4K games on the go or whatever. Like, so they're going to throw 4K in the market. It's gonna, and like, that's what Sony would do, but it's not Sony. It's Nintendo. They're going to throw something stupid that no one's going to use. That's why I like Andres Restart's idea because like no one's going to use that thing. It'll be part of like the new.
It'll be used to hype people up though. It'll be used.
It's the HD Rumble of the generation. We get hype, but it doesn't really matter.
Nintendo will use it for like 4 games to be done.
That's what it feels like with HD Rumble.
The thing is,
how does HD Rumble do nothing in Tears of the Kingdom? It just doesn't.
Are we sure about that,
dude? The Rumble.
I've got HD Rumble.
Look, I have HD Rumble. It does not feel any different to me in Tears of the Kingdom than regular Rumble on a third-party controller. It's like very basic how they're using it, in my opinion. Now, I can say I'm a little spoiled because this is next level.
Yeah.
In how like everything feels like garbage compared to this.
So, but that's what's really interesting though. So it's next level for PlayStation games. Why can't that become a standard for Nintendo too?
I don't know, because they didn't make it a standard with their own HD Rumble.
Well, they can do it this time.
They could. I think it's one of those things that they did. Another one of those we didn't check with our developers if they really wanted this, and so we just threw it in anyways. They did that with the whole Wii U gamepad. They didn't even ask the development team if they wanted it.
I'm just saying that if the new Joy-Cons are a little bit more comfortable, they have better HD Rumble that compares with PS5s, and they have the Vitality.
Yeah, and I think it's essential, guys, that the new system is still compatible with the old Joy-Cons. So you can still slide the old ones on if you want them. Yeah, but they gave us a new, more ergonomic one or something.
Good, because I don't want to give up my Skyward Sword ones. I love those too much.
Yeah, well, you could just put them on.
Well, I mean, I think especially if this is in the same line of systems, like if they literally call it a Switch something. Okay, well then you got to be compatible with all the old stuff too.
Yeah, I would like to have analog triggers, but that's not going to be a difference.
But that would be something Sony would do. It'd be a subtle difference that a lot of people will enjoy, but it isn't really something that markets. They're gonna have something that they can make a video on that's gonna be like, oh, this sounds really awesome, and then they just don't really use it.
I don't know what the company that made the Switch's HD Rumble also made the DualSense HD for their Rumble. I think it's the same company, so it's possible. They just probably need a little bit more room in the Joy-Con.
Oh yeah, you need way more room. I've taken apart a PS5 controller. Those are some hefty motors.
That's a challenge.
What about the Nintendo Switch 4D? And now it can pump out smells when you're playing in handheld.
Oh, so now we're going to the 40 theater that they have at like Universal Parks. So you go watch the SpongeBob episodes. They give you the pickle smell, and
you can smell the Muddlebud when you shoot it in Tears of the Kingdom.
Get old gunpowder smells when you're playing your Call of Duty.
Look, I could literally just look at this controller and go, put this and split it. And that would be innovation enough for me.
They did. They announced it today.
The tension on bowstring poles and like, yeah, I know, but I mean, do it for Nintendo, but have it not look dumb. Look, to be fair, as much as I think like they literally just cut a PS5 controller in half and stuck it on, that's clearly what they did. Yes. It's going to be comfortable to hold because this is comfortable to hold. So it looks stupid, but it will be comfortable. And I think that's what they just care about. Hey, we know our market. Barely anyone's going to buy this, but if they do, they're going to love it. And that's it. I don't the whole million people that might buy it, which, you know what? Maybe that's what they're aiming for. But seriously, like, I like the Joy-Cons. I like the concept of them. I understand the whole needing to be small and slick so you can turn them sideways, especially for children to have instant multiplayer. I get that. But I kind of just feel like maybe the controller is, again, where the sort of innovation could come, where they come up with, because they're not just going to want to do what Sony did. Oh, we now have, triggers that have tension, and they're going to want to be like, no, we got to one up them because we're the controller innovators. Now everyone's praising Sony for their innovations and not Nintendo. So how are we going to one up them? Maybe this is just, it's become an advertising point for third parties. And maybe Nintendo is going to be, this is again, probably a pipe dream. Nintendo finally says, we are the first system to launch with our controllers. Now they have Hall sensing sticks, and we have mechanical button presses, and we're the only system. Yeah, it is, but we're the only system to launch with those features.
And the casual
third-party controllers are doing it.
Not care,
but third-party controllers are doing it and selling them for $70.
I think casuals will care about Hall effect. I don't think they'll care about mechanical buttons. I think they'll care about Hall effect sensors, though. That's easily something you can market.
It's a massive marketing point for some of the best-selling third-party controllers right now, is that they have sticks that don't drift. Nintendo created a problem that third parties solved. Yep. Hey, I got a video I'm making on that soon. Yeah, I got a video I'm making on that soon. Yeah. No. It
looks nice.
It's a selling point.
Like forever to come in.
It looks a little ridiculous when you slide it on the side of the Switch. It looks almost as bad as the Q. Like it's comfortable as hell, but it is unsightly to look at.
So what if they made the Joy-Cons bigger?
Bigger? How much bigger are we going?
Big enough to where they can still offer up multiplayer out of the box, and they don't need straps anymore. It just feels like it feels good.
The straps
you hold it vertically and horizontally.
Well, the straps, I think, were one to add those shoulder buttons, make them easier to press. And then it was for motion controls, so you don't chuck your controller.
Sure. Well, my point is, I mean, they could probably still have the straps if they really want. My point
is,
I
don't know anyone who actually uses the straps on Switch, but
they're okay. They're
now I know one person. Mm-hmm. What do you use it for? Switch Sports?
Switch Sports.
Yeah.
I use the dual.
Switch Sports. You are whipping them.
That makes sense.
Yeah, going a little crazy.
But it would be nice to have Joy-Cons that feel nice to hold horizontally, that don't require a slightly wonky strap.
Yeah.
That would require that they make it a little bit bigger.
Will they accept making it bigger?
I mean, if the Switch...
the one thing I will say, regardless of my criticism of it, this is slick. It just looks slick. Mm-hmm. It's a very slick looking design. Not the most comfortable, but just on selling it with a picture, looks good. The comfortable thing, that stupid Q device, it looks like the stupidest thing ever, but it's going to be significantly more comfortable than this is to hold. Mm-hmm. So it's, I don't know how much bigger they'll go, because you know them, they're trying to like make it for everyone.
New idea. Kids. Got a new idea. So they're going to release something that's shaped like a GameCube. And that is the handheld. You hold it on the sides and you pop up it open. It has
they put a handle on it for the hell of it.
Yeah. And like instead of like how the GameCube opens up, you put a disc in it. That's the screen. It's just like
my gosh.
Design. But it's a nice little chunker, and you hold it like this, and it's got the controls, and it's basically like a really fat Game Boy Advance.
There you go.
You would.
There you go.
Yeah.
I've never been more disappointed.
It'll sell
in a comment out of your mouth.
The memory card slot is the game slot.
Never been more disappointed.
I mean, I think we're just at that point in the night where.
Well, no, I will say this. Speaking of memory, though, dude, how much storage is this thing gonna have at launch?
Not a lot. 64.
128.
I mean, we have 64 right now on OLED.
That's the standard.
Away with 256.
They can get away with 64. That's what they're gonna do.
I mean,
I would like to see at least 128. I mean,
you know what I would prefer?
I prefer they just put a terabyte in this one.
I would prefer they actually would just not have that much internal storage and just give us a micro SD card out of the box.
Yeah, but they're gonna
like they're not even expensive.
They're gonna give you like a 64 gig one, and you're gonna be like, dude, I'm replacing that right away with a 256 512 1 terabyte.
Not even 64, 32.
Yeah, they'll just give you that cheap. They got a 16 gigabyte expansion one or something. Like,
I mean, I'm gonna buy one anyway.
This is what I want them to do. If you're gonna cheap out, fine. You're gonna give me 32 gigs again, which is stupid. Fine. Give me multiple micro SD card slots. Let me put a couple terabytes on myself if I want to.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Let me put an NVMe in there.
Yeah, I mean. I doubt they're gonna let me do that, but yeah,
definitely not.
Let me do it because of the heat alone. They won't let me do it, but let me do it. Like it's just like I'm not saying that 1 terabyte isn't enough right now, but games are only getting bigger. Mm-hmm. So right now, like having to swap SD cards kind of sucks. If you're a user that's had to swap SD cards to play games, it ain't fun. So let me just put more than one in. Like. It's not unheard of. There are like tablets and other devices that have let you do that in the past. There's cameras that let you do it. My camera lets me do it. So like it's a simple thing that costs you like 2 cents to throw another one of those on there.
Mm-hmm. So you know what's about the same size as micro SD cards?
SIM cards?
SIM cards.
Oh, here 5G. We go.
I'm okay with a 5G next gen Switch.
I'm out on 5G. I'm out. Get me out of here.
I don't care for it, but if that's what
I don't need an always online. The next that just goes into it becoming an always online system, and I'm good with that. Nope.
That's gonna happen anyway.
No, Nintendo's stubborn.
Start somewhere.
I don't think Nintendo's
stubborn.
Do it.
This is the one thing I want you to stay stubborn on, Nintendo. I do not want a system that doesn't work if I'm not on the internet. Dude, when Xbox Live went out on my Xbox...
Not mandatory, optional.
Oh, you don't know. That's what happens, though. You're opening the floodgate to it being mandatory. Because you always have access. I don't like even having that as long as it's a handheld that's meant to be taken on the go that can't always be connected to the internet, they will not make it mandatory.
So I don't personally mind that much that, say, for example, with NSL games, as like once I get them on my system, once it checks, I can take them on the go and not be online to play my NSO games. So I'm okay with that. Now, what would kind of suck is, let's say, like, you get a Switch from the store, like, say you're a kid, and it's like a road trip. Well, I don't know, for whatever reason that they open their Switch during a road trip, and they want to play it while they're still in the car. You won't be able to do that because you have to connect to the internet. I mean, of course, a lot of people have hotspots, but I wouldn't like it either.
I've downloaded a game off a hotspot.
I'm just saying. I've uploaded a video off a hotspot. I'm just saying that the moment you tell Nintendo, oh, every system we launch, everyone can be online all the time, is the moment they go, cool, now you have to be online all the time.
I think they're going to do it for security reasons.
Because it would help. Yeah, it would help for piracy. Like, that's the big thing. Nintendo would love for it to be an always online system.
Yes.
It's just not good for consumers, so that's why I don't want them to do it. But Nintendo would be the company to be like, we don't really care. And I think it could hurt the system.
The Switch, to be honest. And after Tears of the Kingdom, all those leaks and everything, I think they just like,
we're locking it down.
At least digital only.
Your system is basically a paperweight if you ain't logged in.
I think we see digital only before it's,
Yeah.
I think it comes at the same time.
Well, why do we need both? Because isn't digital only good?
How about we do neither?
Because digital only, as you said, a lot of times when you download a digital game, sometimes on Steam too, they do an online check to make sure that you actually own the game. Like, it still requires the internet. You can't just you can't just have your laptop in the car and just boot up any old Steam game unless you have access to the internet, even if it's installed locally. Like, that's just how it is. That's how that's how all digital systems are. They have online checks for every game you're going to load up. Now, yeah, once you do the online check and load up, you're usually good for a bit. But after a couple hours, it might try that check again quick, just to make sure. It's all anti-piracy measures. It's just it's not a world like for PC gaming. It's not too bad because most of the time you are sitting down with a wired connection or even wireless, but in your own home. So it's usually not too bad. That's why PC gamers don't complain as much about it as console gamers would. But man, there's no way we get to an all digital world without it requiring online checks all the time. Look at the other platforms right now that are leaning this way. We just had Alan Wake 2 announced today, and they straight up said digital only. We're not doing physical. Why? Because PlayStation and Xbox already sell digital only platforms. And you know what's funny? When PSN and Xbox Live go down, suddenly a lot of people can't play any of their games.
Mm-hmm.
We're already seeing this happen with digital platforms. If you don't got a physical copy, you're kind of boned when those systems go down. So that's why I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Now, is Nintendo so stupidly stubborn that maybe they would just go all digital without online checks? Maybe they can't even figure out how to do it because they kind of don't know what they're doing. Maybe I'm giving Nintendo too much credit that they actually know what they're doing to do that. But sorry. I feel like I just crushed Andres' research dreams over there and he took a nap.
No, we're good. I don't really care about I'm just throwing out ideas.
That's all right. Hey, ideas are ideas. So
I got
you guys all think the storage is
coming
going
out later, so I don't really care.
Yeah, so you guys think the storage is all going to be pretty low again?
Yeah,
I think 64 is my expectation. If they go anything above that is, great.
Shocking, surprising.
I mean, 128 I think is conceivable.
I say 128 as well.
I mean,
because if the games are better, they need
you
more
sell a $300 Xbox Series S and have 500 gigs. What are we doing?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, why the storage isn't that expensive? We just talk about cheap. Like, come on, Nintendo, you can give us bigger internal storage. It's not.
Well, also, okay, I hear what you're saying, but also like you look at smartphones, like at least iPhones, they don't come out with that much extra storage.
But you don't need that much storage unless you're someone who's taking videos. You really don't. You can install like 1 billion apps. The apps aren't 100 gig. You're not getting a 33 gigabyte app, and that's what we have coming.
I would argue. I think you can make an argument. I'm making the argument now that in some ways it's more important to have storage on phones because, especially with iPhone, there's no way to expand that storage. I mean, you can have iCloud. It's not really the same thing.
But it is for what takes up your storage space.
Yeah.
It backs up your videos and your photos. It offloads it.
Sure, but like there's so many, and the other thing is that every generation people are carrying over the same storage they've had year by year. So and also we change our phones more often than systems.
I don't know, the phone market's a great market to look at either. They hold every feature as like, oh my gosh, you need to spend $500 just to get 32 gigabytes more storage. Like, no,
bro, yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be a year where they're gonna be like, hey, so now a terabyte is the standard.
Let me tell you, I have a Mac Studio that I got 2 gigs in. I paid an extra $400 for this Mac Studio for an extra terabyte of storage. Ridiculous. That's it. I paid $200 for that. You know what they wanted for me to add another terabyte? Another $600. Like, I'm not going to these phone companies and pretending that that storage is even remotely what they're charging. So like, we've seen how cheap storage can be. We already can go out and buy it ourselves. It's not that expensive in certain form factors. Now, I understand for like PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series because they're using M.2 technology that, yeah, okay, it's going to be $100, $120 to get that extra terabyte. But that's still like, we're talking about flash memory here. They're using flash memory. They're using the same technology that's in the damn micro SD cards. There's no reason we can't have more storage just put on the system natively for cheap. Just that, I mean, unless Nintendo just really loves partnering with micro SD card companies and being like, yes, we want 10 cents of every sale, baby. Like, I mean, come on. Hey, here, I'm going to throw this out there. This is the Wii U mentality. Multiple models at launch with different storage.
Nope.
Damn it.
I was thinking that too.
I tried. I tried, guys. That was one idea I actually liked from Wii U. But
yeah,
granted, the storage options were still way too low anyways. But hey, 8 and 32, they gave me an option.
They won't give you the internal storage. They'll just make their own SD cards and just go that route.
Proprietary? No. Yeah. Horrible.
Oh, well, no, here we go. Be proprietary. It'd just be the same thing. They'll just do their own.
Oh, okay. The Nintendo branded SD cards
partner with like $20 more to get Nintendo branded ones. Yeah. I don't know.
That would be interesting if there was like special. It would also mean that you can't get anything else, right? Like let's say they did that, but the
micro SD cards is very user friendly.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should just keep it simple. Just do that. I honestly, this is my personal take. I think the whole storage debate is a little bit much, just because micro SD cards are increasingly become cheaper and cheaper. It's not that hard to transfer your files over to another micro SD card. So I just feel like just buy a micro SD card for $50. It's like a terabyte and you're good. Like, those deals exist. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like,
yeah, they're usually around like 70 for the terabyte on the best deals
until Black Friday.
And but they're also sold out.
Also, pro tip: don't buy the Nintendo micro SD cards that have the little like mushrooms or stars, or like they put out a Zelda one that had the Hylian thing on it. Don't buy it because you're not going to see the design on the micro SD card 99.9% of the time.
When I switch my systems, I want to see. Anyways, I want to know I'm pulling the Triforce out of that.
And they're 25% more than just the standard SanDisk.
But I will say this. So you talked about how it's easy to move data on micro SD cards. If you got multiple of them, a lot of people I know with Switches, they just buy one. And so when they buy a new Switch and they want to port it over, you can't transfer the data over on that micro SD card. You actually have to wipe it to put it in the new Switch.
It's really stupid. Mm-hmm.
So you actually have to have an entirely separate micro SD card to complete the system transfer. Now, cloud saves us help with some of that, but there's still some of those games out there not doing that.
Yeah, Pokemon, Splatoon.
Yeah. It also doesn't.
No, not Splatoon. Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. Yeah.
It doesn't help when you have like the pictures and videos.
That too.
Card.
Yeah,
it wipes all of them.
Yep. Like you have to have another like, and that's one reason why I said it would be nice to have the multiple micro SD cards, not just. I don't know. Like I like the multiple micro SD card idea just because I know games are only getting bigger. They're only going to get bigger. So like even a terabyte's not going to feel like enough at some point here. Like right now, I'll tell you right now, I have over a terabyte worth of games digitally. I just have a bunch of them not installed right now because I haven't bought a terabyte micro SD card. So
what I've been doing lately, I just delete games I don't need.
Sure.
Oh, I haven't playing Doom. No problem.
I understand that. That's
archive.
fair. That is fair. I have archived, like I have Doom Eternal archived right now, right?
Yeah.
But this is just me. In the back of my mind, I want access to all my games all the time. And if I already bought it, I don't want to wait. I don't want to have to re-download it. Then you also get to the point that, eventually the eShop might shut down. So I actually need everything downloaded at some point. And by the way, Switch does support swapping micro SD cards. You can use multiple with it by swapping, but it's a pain in the ass. Because then you got to start remembering what data is on what card. And that just...
Would it be possible, and I know this may seem a little tricky, but what if Switch 2 has a more advanced dock that can have a hard drive connected to it? Is that possible? And how would that work?
An external hard drive? I mean, yeah, the other systems support it. It's literally just a USB hard drive.
The only issue would be taking it out on the go, because then you're no longer connected to that hard drive.
Yeah, whatever's on it would only be usable in dock mode.
Why it'd be tricky.
But there might be some games, as an example, you only play in dock mode, so who really cares? Like, in certain situations.
Yeah.
But like I know right now the biggest issue would be the transfer speeds, because the whole reason Nintendo uses cartridges is to avoid manual installs on physical.
Maybe what they could do. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
All I was just gonna say is like maybe they could allow you to connect a hard drive to the dock, but it's not like meant as, hey, you can do this to store your stuff, and you could, but it might be more of, hey, you want to transfer stuff over? You can use this as like a memory bank to kind of.
Oh, sure, like a between.
Yeah.
It would be nice. Like you can technically transfer all the data off a micro SD card to a PC, but then it
but only to a PC, not to a Mac.
Yeah,
because I've tried to do that and it doesn't work.
Yeah, it won't work on a Mac.
It doesn't work with a Mac?
No.
Nope.
Huh.
No, it's a pain in the
I've
ass.
done so PC several times. It takes a long time. It does. Very cumbersome.
Yeah, it's not. People don't like doing it because of that. It's because of what are some people transferring the entire game. They don't want to re-download things, and it's just a pain in the ass. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for episode 22 of the Nintendo Prime podcast. I'm sure we'll have much more to say on new systems as new rumors and details come out sometime in the next 12 months.
Especially when they announce it next week.
Whoa.
Love that.
Let me just tell you, that would be a banger podcast if that happens. Right? I'm all game for that. Go ahead, Nintendo, because right now, like I'm kind of just waiting for the Pikmin 4 news cycle to begin at this point. I don't know. Like, when can I talk spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom? Never. So, you notice, by the way, this is a record. We had a Tears of the Kingdom topic on every single podcast the entirety of season 2 until now. So the first episode to not have one.
Wow.
We talked about it though.
Yeah, it ended up coming up because people can't stop talking about when I say, what have we been playing lately?
Pseudo topic.
But it was not technically a scheduled topic. Mm-hmm. So now the next thing is, when will there be a podcast that it doesn't even get mentioned? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's
probably never.
Probably, honestly, maybe not for like another 5 years. And even then, because we're going to be talking about the next
it'll
Zelda.
come up in comparison to something else we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
it's that
have
kind
we
of
mentioned
game.
Breath of the Wild today?
You just did.
Now,
yes.
Now we're starting Breath of the Wild all over again. It's going to come up all the time.
Excluding
but here's the thing, though.
Maybe next week.
But think about this, Andre. Like we say that, but you've been on the podcast a lot. Even last year, we didn't have Breath of the Wild as a topic in many of the podcasts. Didn't come up very often.
Excuse me.
Granted, we were obviously shifting over to Tears of the Kingdom, but I remember a lot of podcasts where we didn't talk.
We always talked. Okay, I don't honestly. It's all a blur to me. It's all a blur to me because
we've had we've had Metroid only podcasts, like when we had like Super Mario Dave on and stuff. But anyways,
yeah.
But anyways, you're coughing. He's coughing. Half the people are dying around here. I don't know what's going on. So let's wrap this thing up as it's getting late. I am your host, as always, Nintendo Robo Gents. You can catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are heard, all of your favorite podcast services. The audio version usually goes up within 24 hours of the video version. We try to get it up right away, but it all depends on all the processing behind the scenes. I want to make sure we get all of our guests shouted out properly and we get them all linked up here. So I'm going to start spamming their links in the chat. While we do that, let's start with Andres Restart. Who are you? Where can they find you? You already teased the video for tomorrow, so what's up, man?
Well, fun fact, I was born of fire. This is not a lie nor an exaggeration. I make Nintendo content. Andre's Restart. I'm not joking about the fire thing. There was a literal fire that caused me to be born more quickly. But anyways, yes, I make Nintendo content and use theories, tips, videos, and a lot of Zelda. But tomorrow, yeah, we'll be talking about Nintendo stuff, and there might be a live stream as well. So
heck yeah, man. All right, Nick Barrett, where can they find you and what you got going on?
You can find me over on the Joystick Drift podcast on YouTube, on Instagram at Joystick Drift Pod. As for content, actually, me and 2 of my co-hosts are going to a convention this weekend, so there should be some content from that next week, hopefully. Other than that, we just put out an episode this week talking about Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed and Tears of the Kingdom. So that's what we got going on.
what convention?
MomoCon in Atlanta.
Okay.
Nice. All right, Seiran, what do you got going on? Where can they find you?
Hello, I am the Great Seiran, commonly mistaken for the Great Saiyan Man, but hey. But yeah, you can catch me on YouTube, youtube.com/Seiran Gaming. Thinking about doing a cheeky little spoiler story review of Tears of the Kingdom this weekend.
As soon as I beat the game, I might watch that. I beat it.
Definitely do that. Covering some Street Fighter. I'm hosting a tournament on June 17th for just anyone to come in and play for a little bit of smoney's. So just some fun stuff going on the channel.
We go. It's always more fun to play the competitive games.
Prize.
There's something on the line. Love it.
It's gonna be so much sweat.
Everyone, see, I don't do that. I'm like, oh, you should do a cash smash tournament where people play you for money. I'm like, I'm gonna be broke. Let's just not.
Yeah,
this ain't gonna go well for me.
People will come watch though.
People will come watch me empty my bank account. That is for sure. Oh, that's hilarious. All right, you can find Eric over there on Twitter at emo8790.
Yes.
Yeah. Same for Darren, except Real Dern. Because he's the realest Dern I know.
Real DERN and on this podcast.
The realest D I know. Wait. Sorry. Whoops.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
we'll catch you same time next week, 8 p.m. for episode 23 next week, guys. Later.
Peace.